I am Marwan Cameron. This is the Conduit, y'all. Uh, I know I'm supposed to be resting, but what do they say? There's no rest for the wicked. Does that mean I'm wicked? I don't know what that saying means, but I am here. I am well. Folks were a little bit more concerned than I thought they would be, so I figured I probably needed to come on and just let folks know that I'm doing fine. Ain't nothing wrong with me. I'm going to do what I do nonstop because that is what is called for. So I will be recovering over the next few days, but there's a lot to do, and the new year is coming in. I can't bring the new year in laying down. I got to bring the new year in charged up and ready to go. All right, looks like my audio is good there. Let me just go ahead and make sure I got everything going. So we'll have a good evening tonight. I wanted to really get through this whole manifesto before the new year so that those who wanted to could take advantage and start to implement parts that they liked. So that was my intent on trying to get this stuff out. However, sometimes stuff happens, and when it happens, you got to go ahead and just do what you can. So that's what we're doing, right? Ride the wave. Go ahead and give this out here. Boom, boom. Let's see. I am live. The agenda should watch and discuss. All right, so I'm sending that out. Have some folks that are in learning mode. They've been in learning mode today, which is good. You know, that's really important to me, lifelong learning and such. And so I'm just kind of sending that out. Let's see. How you doing there, Mr. Dent? Aha, thank you. This is my Christmas present here. So, you know, it keeps me warm. People know I run cold and I need to be warm. So this is my Christmas present this year. So I've got this nice fleece and I think it's like Sherpa or whatever this is on the inside. And then what's really crazy is, you know, it matches the purple cup. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm about to have a cup of coffee here in just a second. All right, cool. I appreciate that. So I'm asking Mr. Dent. He will be out tonight picking up someone from work, as we do. And I've asked him to stop over and pick up the tablets from Brother Keyshawn, who was gracious enough to go and record Kwanzaa celebration tonight down at the United Way. So shout out to being able to do that as a team member. That's awesome. Let me go ahead and get my coffee here. Oh yeah, listen to that pour. Ooh, man. I tell you what. So there's two really cool things about having to have surgery and needing to fast. Right. The first one is food tastes fantastic once you get on the other side. Number two is, man, the sleep you get after you get home, you are out. Out. So let me tell you, I got my sleep on. I was in a coma for, I don't know, maybe 3 hours. Did I sleep for 3 hours? I was out, but that was some of the best rest that I got. And I was like, oh, thank you, man. Feels so good. So when I woke up, I felt a little bit rested, which was great. But let's go ahead and get ourselves ready to go here. I think I wanted to send this to one other person here. So we're going to get back into the manifesto as I talked before. And tonight, we're going to continue on again. If you want a copy, just send me an email and I will send it out to you. In part one, we got into mentorship, volunteering, large events, respecting our elders, and resolving issues. We started just to touch on resolving issues, but that's such a big one. It needed its own separate conversation. In part two, we went over fully resolving issues, and then we got into programs. In part three, we got into doing business with folks, supporting business, employees, hiring, and employers. Tonight, we're going to get into creating a sovereignty doctrine. We're going to get into children, and we're going to get into consequences. And I think this is really critical for going into the new year. I'll also touch on one other thing as we're doing that wasn't a part of the manifesto, but per my conversation with other folks, I'm going to be adding that in because I think that's important. So let's go ahead and get ready to jump into that piece there. All right. So let's see here. I'll go ahead and do that. Boom. All right. So we got a lot of events going on here. Soon, put some coffee creamer in here. My coffee there. Boom. Like that. Go ahead and get the manifesto on screen. This is New Year's Eve. Well, in about an hour, it will be officially New Year's Eve. What have you decided, if you have decided, that you are going to do for your New Year's resolution? What are you going to change? What are you going to do more of? Hey, how you doing there, Juan? What are you going to fix? Are you going to start going to the gym? You're going to change your diet? You're going to do more outreach, connect with family and friends a little bit more? You're going to work on a business. You're going to go to school. You're going to change jobs. You're going to learn a new skill. What is it going to be for you? I would submit to you that you do not need to wait, as I was saying earlier, for an arbitrary day like New Year's, but it is significant and it is coming up. So if you have not created something, I implore you to do so. And we are intellectually honest here, and that means that we operate from a logical space. It doesn't mean that we don't see things differently. It's just that we're going to look at things. Good diet, gym, and community service. I love it. Just we're going to look at it logically. And so sometimes people will reject ideas just off of the premise on how they came about, right? Like they'll say, well, you shouldn't have to wait for New Year's Eve or New Year's Day to do to change something in your situation. So I don't like that. And so therefore, I'm not going to change my situation because of that particular date, right? And so it's like kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That doesn't serve your purpose, doesn't do you any good. So get beyond that and just focus on what it is that you want to improve upon or what you want to change. It is also really important that you keep perspective, right? Everything in your life isn't negative. Everything in your life isn't bad. And if you are feeling down, as this is typically a hard time, maybe you have dug a hole in your life from different behaviors and actions that you have put yourself in. Understand that, while you may have made those actions and decisions, you can just as easily start to make different actions and decisions, right? You can begin to think differently. Now, does that mean that it's going to take time to change your situation? Yes, right? Many of the, holes that we've dug for ourselves have taken a while to dig. Very, let's say, not too often do we do something just off of a split second and it just changes our whole life, right? There's a whole bunch of stuff that led up to that if you look at it, right? There's one action that did it. I decided to do a B&E or just something stupid, right? It got into a bar fight, right? So yes, the bar fight was the catalyst that put you in jail and caused you to have to go to anger management classes and go to AA and some other things. But there were a whole bunch of other things that were going on in your life before then that caused you to get to the space that you're in now. And that's what you really need to look at, right? What puts you in that bar? What puts you in that space that emotionally you can hold your masculine frame or your feminine frame and find another way to resolve that issue, to value yourself above the situation and say, I have too much to lose, right? And we're not talking about material things, right? Follow me. I have too much to lose, and nothing good can come from me projecting this bravado. We all can be tough. What does that do for you? What does that get you in the end? Hey there, how you doing there, Zulu? And so you really need to take an analysis of what got you to the point. What led you down that road? And as you begin to change your life, understand that it is going to take a while. It's going to take miles, right? It took miles for you to get to the direction you were in. And now you've got to turn and you've got to walk back all those miles that you went the wrong way. And then you've got to begin those miles onto the direction that you really wanted to go. And the direction that is in you. You have it, that potential, that untapped potential that you have. But that's going to take a while. You need to understand that. But it's worth it. And when you earn that, you're more likely to keep it. We talk about things like, people not having understanding the value of money, right? If you give someone a dollar, it's very different than them earning the dollar, right? They're going to protect that dollar more because it was so hard to earn that dollar versus, well, if you just gave it to me, easy come, easy go. It wasn't my money, whatever. You're the one that worked hard for that. So when you travel backwards and you fix those mistakes and you change your life over that course of time, and then you get onto the path that was intended for you, that you wanted for yourself, that other people that love and care about you saw in you, you're less likely to deviate from that path. Good. I'm glad. I hope this will spur conversation, right? And you guys can talk to me in the chat. Won't have anyone call in, but type in the chat because we can have a discussion that way. It's a conversation. The one thing I will say to those that are listening, you should endeavor to be a lifelong learner. What is a lifelong learner? People throw that term around very flippantly. Oh, I'm a lifelong learner. I learn every day. I want to learn. Like, do you really want to learn? Or do you have the hubris to think that at some point in your life, you know it all? That you're good. No one can tell you any better. See, once you get to that point where no one can tell you, you're in real trouble. You also have to recognize that sometimes someone who may be beneath your station, whatever that is, may be able to teach you something if you're willing to listen. So can you listen? Can you hear? Can you evaluate? Not a lot of us can. And that gets us in trouble, right? Who do you go to for counsel, for advice? What do you think about this? What am I missing? Doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to change what you do. It may reinforce what you're doing in the direction that you're going in. But it's important that you find people that you trust that you can have conversation with. What am I doing? Why am I doing this? What is the outcome that I'm hoping to achieve? Am I on the right path? Is there a more effective way to do this? What were the mistakes that you made when you went down this road? How can I avoid those things? Where are the pitfalls potentially when I'm going to want to do something different? When I'm going to be challenged and tested? Because you're going to be tested. So whatever it is, whatever you struggle with, that's going to be put in front of you. That's going to be your test, and you're always going to be tested. So don't ever think that you're going to get to some level and you're no longer going to have to show and prove. And understand, as you climb that ladder, more people can see you. See, right now, you're on the ground floor. Maybe you haven't even begun to climb the ladder. You're looking at that ladder like, yeah, maybe I'll climb it. I don't know yet. Maybe you're on the first rung, you're on the second rung, and you're just getting there. And so only the people that you were running with last night, because you decided this morning that you were going to change your life, and they're laughing at you and they're like, come on, man, stop the cap. Come on, give me that pipe. That you're not really going to change. Maybe you're on the sixth ladder, the seventh ladder, and so many more people can see you now, right? All the folks that were with you when you were on the ground, the other people that, maybe in meetings or groups that are also on the ascent with you, right? They're seeing it and you've made some gains on them because you're a couple rungs higher. But now, mentors, leaders, program managers, things like that, they are now starting to see your progress, right? Because you're higher up on the ladder. And that can get really scary. Afraid to fail, afraid to succeed. Because now I got to stay consistent, right? It's one thing if I'm on the ground, well, no one has any expectation from me. They just say, hey, it's wasted potential. But there's no expectation. I'm just down here on the ground. But once you begin that ascent, once you begin that climb, all of a sudden it becomes pretty stressful because folks are watching. And the ops are like, yeah, whatever. They're waiting for your downfall. The problem is that your ops and some of your family and some of your friends have the same mindset. They're waiting for you to fall and fail also. And that's tough and that's hard to swallow. It's hard to hear. How are you going to navigate that? Are you resolute in your decision in who you want to be, in the direction you want your life to take? That it doesn't matter what friends and family and colleagues believe. You're doing the best thing for you. Again, like I said, that doesn't mean that you don't take advice or counsel. But advice and counsel is a very serious thing. And that is not to be taken lightly and not to be taken from everyone. That can only be taken from a select few of people. Only a select few of people. Okay? Understand that. We're going to be getting into my manifesto here in just a second, but I needed to have this conversation. I think it's important, especially when we're talking about creating a sovereignty doctrine. And what does sovereignty mean? Again, if you want this manifesto, all you need to do is just send me an email and I will send it to you. If there are things that you want to add to the manifesto, you can send them to me. I may not necessarily add them. I'm going to create two documents, right? This is my manifesto for my life, right? So if I like what you send, I'll add it and I may adopt it for myself. If it's something that it's like, well, it might be good for you, but what I'll do is I will add it in where it goes. And if anyone wants it, this is a living document. It means that it's going to change, right? That's another thing that I think is important for us to do is have the ability to change upon receiving new information. Sometimes we're so resolute in our beliefs and how we think that we can't take in new information and have that change the scenario. It can be very destructive. Now, what I'm not saying is, oh, you should be wishy-washy. And every time something comes in, well, this is what I believe now. Oh, that's what I believe now. Oh, I believe this now. That's not what I'm saying at all. But that goes part and parcel with understanding who you are. What do you value? If I asked you right now, can you list 10 things that you value that are important to you? Could you do it? Could you do it? And then, upon listing those 10 things that you value, are you living what you value? And if you're not at this point in time, are you actively working toward it? Because I would submit to you that typically what you value, you spend your time doing, you're working on. So if you value loyalty, are you being loyal? If you value changing the community, are you doing that work? Are you actually doing it? Now that's being intellectually honest with yourself. right? Salud. Salud. All right, so we're going to get into this thing here. Like I said before, if you want, definitely check out part 1, 2, and 3. The links are in the description. You do not need to watch these in order. There's no particular order that these things need to be executed in. I think as you go through it, there are obviously some things you may do first versus second. But the important thing is that you have an idea. And even if you say, you know what, Marwan, I looked over this thing and I'm like, oh man, I can't do any of this stuff, right? You can use this. No, there's a limit to how many a person can share this link. No, there's no limit. You can just share it. Here, let me put it. I'll put it in here. Just share it out. There is no limit. It's like Master P, no limit soldier. Nah. Make him say, part 4. Okay, let me go ahead and copy that. Boom. Yeah, because you're just sharing out a YouTube link. So that there should be no limit to that. No limit at all. Just share the link and they can come in. Now, if they don't have a YouTube account, they will be asked to create a YouTube account, which is really easy to do. It takes some seconds to do that. So that could be what's happening, right? So if you're clicking on the link and you haven't really watched YouTube, YouTube will say, hey, you need to create an account in order to chat. You may need to do that. Go ahead and do it. It takes a few seconds. Just, put an email on there and boom, you're in. And then you'll be able to talk back and forth with me through the chat, as you can see Raymond and Juan and Rob and others are doing. We got quite a few people watching this evening, which is fantastic. I thank you all for coming in. Holidays are almost over, so I figure I'll put on my Santa hat, and it's got to be purple, y'all, because that's what it is. I'm always on code, be consistent. And again, don't worry about other people. Don't worry about other people. So often, people they need to feel like they need to be hard, and so hard that they can't be silly or goofy or laugh. It doesn't make you weak. It means that you have command of all of your emotions, right? So I can be being a one-trick pony is not a badge of honor, because you know how to turn up and be angry and be mad and be serious. You need to have a full range of human emotion, a full range. Be happy, smile, laugh. These things are important, folks. And these things physically, hear me now, physically affect you. Smiling, laughing, your mood. It's important. So even while you're doing this work, and many of us are doing some really hard work, trying to address addiction or homelessness or incarceration or add, or multiple things at the same time. It's stressful. It's hard. Evil never dies. It never takes a rest. You still need to find that joy, that peace. Otherwise, you're going to burn out. And I see it so often. Folks come in, they're a bright flame, and they supernova. 2 years in, 3 years in. You got it? Okay, good. When people tell me, Marwan, you got to take a break. You can't just keep working constantly. You gotta stop a little bit. They know that it's a marathon, not a sprint. That I've got to be here for the duration. That if I'm going to change things, that means I've got to take care of myself, mentally and physically, right? I wasn't going to have this back surgery until after my birthday, probably February. And I was dying, And so my team had to say, what are you doing? You just need to go ahead and do it. What are you really going to do during the holidays? You're going to write some grants, right? You might do a couple podcasts. You're going to sit around, eat some food, hang out with the family, friends. Just do it now. Get it out the way. January is super busy. You'd rather be, on the tail end of recovery instead of trying to get through that, right? Because when you're in pain, you're fatigued, right? That affects your mood. I can put on the biggest, hey, y'all, this is Marwan Cameron. This is the Conduit. All I want. And I'm dying inside physically. So it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. I just got done telling Ray, call him out. Rome wasn't built in a day. I think he hates that phrase. But it's so true. But he understands there's a sense of urgency. Come on in the work that needs to be done. Oh, look at that. I got a guest that just walked in. How you doing there, Mr. Dent?
I'm doing all right. And yourself, Mr. Cameron?
I'm doing pretty good. I appreciate you. Let me go ahead and take that there. Okay. I got that OCD, so if there's like random stuff in the back of the camera, it drives me crazy. I'm just going to put it on the floor right here.
I got you.
So he is out picking folks up. We won't say the name, but there's a person that just got off work.
Actually went to work.
To work. All right, so they're working the graveyard shift. And so understand how important that is. There's no bus, right? There's no bus service right now. So this person needs to get to work in order to be able to pay their rent and stay housed, right? And so Rob is out here at 11 o'clock at night to ensure that she gets to work. And when did your day start today?
My day started at 5:30 this morning, sir.
All right.
Starts tomorrow at 4.
All right. We'll go home, get some rest.
Yep.
Right. I appreciate you.
Yep. And good to see you up and about.
Well, I don't know about up and about. I got my cane. Go and get the cane.
Well, I will pass this on to you from Mrs. Dent. You look like a purple Santa Claus.
Oh, there you go.
Purple beard and you're in.
Hey, I take the purple Santa Claus. I got that white coming in. It's all good. Hey, I'm bringing the Christmas cheer.
Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you. Drive safe.
Yep.
It's dedication. Dedication. It's also another thing too is everyone should have an inner circle of folks that you can trust, that that are going to be able to get the work done. We had our last board meeting for the year on Wednesday, and what I shared with them is, hey, look, we got an award this year, which was awesome. A lot of acknowledgement, which is great, but I'm not G2. Right, I'm one person. I'm the face. I'm the face that people see, but I don't pick anyone up. I don't give rides. I don't prepare the meals, and so those things happen, regardless of what it is I'm doing. Sometimes I'm asleep. It's 11:15 at night, and he's on a run. I think he'll be in Bay Bridge Island at 5:45 this morning. Something, whatever he's got this coming up. I know I won't be awake. He'll be taking that ride. Make sure that you have a strong inner circle and that people are on mission, that you're all swimming in the same direction. That is critical, because if you don't have that, what you'll have is your team pulling in all different directions. And that can be very disastrous. And if it doesn't break you up, at the minimum, what it's going to do is ensure that you don't work as efficiently as possible. And here we are. Our purpose is trying to help people. So if we are not on one accord and we're all trying to do different things in different ways, we all want to be the leader, then we've got a problem. So just keep that in mind. A lot of folks want to lead, but they have difficulty following. And while that sounds cliche, a good leader is someone who knows how to follow. There's always a report. We got to have checks and balances. You got to have checks and balances. That's critical. That's critical. All right. So he came and brought the tablets so that I can edit videos tonight after this is over, because I might be grinding till about 3 a.m. tonight. Because, well, I mean, I'm not going to be able to sleep. I'm in pain. So what can I do? I could be effective, right? If I can't use my body, I can use my mind. But it is important to get rest. It is important to get sleep. It is important to pace yourself. So I will take breaks. I will watch a little bit of mindless TV. I'll listen to my audiobook. Maybe play a little video game. Maybe I'll chat on the phone with someone. Have a mindless conversation. You know, maybe I'll have company. Yeah, I can't have company tonight. But, all things in moderation. As I always say, look down at the piece of paper. Right on that paper is what I'm doing now on mission. So when you look down at your feet right now, it's 11:17, is what you're doing right now serving your mission. If you're trying to build something, then I would say you can answer yes to that, right? Because you're learning, you're absorbing, you're exposing yourself to something positive. Right now, you could be doing a myriad of other things. You could be sitting in the bar, you could be smoking, you could be doing other non-productive things, but instead you're listening. And that's part of the work. Sometimes we don't count those things as the work. Those things are just as important as the tangible as handing the plate of food, giving the ride, actually driving the vehicle, actually writing the grant. This is just as important. So please don't overlook that as you are building, because you have to understand what you're doing. And oftentimes, toward the top of an organization, they have a clear understanding what they're doing, right? This is the germination of their idea, their intellectual property that they have birthed. So they know what it is. They know what they want to do. They know what it should look like. But everyone else that comes under, they don't quite know yet. They're trying to figure it out, and they're trying to understand their place in it. This is how you learn where your place is, what you do, what your contribution is. And understand, for those of you, I'll use a sports analogy, right? You've got the head coach. You've got assistant coaches, right? You got the offensive line coach. You got the defensive line coach. You got the quarterback coach. You got the wide receiver coach. You got the running back coach. You got the lineman coach. You have linemen. You have the quarterbacks. You have running backs. And so you need everyone on that team. And so you're not going to go out onto the football field with no running backs. You can't play a game with no quarterbacks. So while the quarterback is the leader on the field, he is the floor general. Understand, if he has no one to throw to or hand off to, there's no team. If he has no one blocking for him, there's no team. You are integral. You are important. You are necessary. And it's important as the head that you make sure that your team understands the importance of the rest of the positions. When people say play your position, they absolutely mean it. At least they should. So when it comes from me, I mean it. Play your position, because your position is important and you're the one that is slotted in that spot. So maybe it's your cooking. And I'm speaking of G2, right? Because that's your skill. I can't cook the way that you can cook. I've got to follow directions. So I could get through making some recipes, but it's going to take me 2 or 3 times as long. I'm not going to be able to think on the fly. I'm not going to be able to substitute ingredients if those things aren't here. So I'm not the right person for that position. But you in that position allows us to do the mission of serving people that are experiencing food insecurity. Understand the importance of that. Don't lose sight of that. And it's a very unfortunate thing that I see that happens a lot. People want these different positions. They want these higher positions. They want these titles. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. There's a lot that goes with that. And it's not enough just to say, well, I take the accolades when we win and I say, well, I'm accountable for the loss. What does that mean when you're accountable for your loss? For coaches, it means that they lost their job, that you let down the team, that you let down the owner, that you let down the fans. And in this scenario, the fans are the clients, the fans are the unhoused, the fans are the hungry, the fans are those that can't make their rent, that need food stamps, TANF. The fans are those that need to get to a mental health appointment, that need a friendly ear, that need to get to a doctor's appointment, to get to the dentist that they haven't been to in years. Your position is critically important. And that's what makes the ecosystem go. That's what makes it go. And if you think about it and you look and you say, hey, if this team was built out how I wanted it to be built out, how you envision it, and everything was hitting on 100, what would it look like? And what would change in your community? What would happen if you were actually achieving your mission, where there was no homelessness, where there was no one that was hungry, where folks had support for addiction, that triggers were minimized in their life, where people could retrain and make a livable wage? All right, I'll do that. What would that look like? And are you working toward that? And the people that you have brought close to you, do they believe in that? You got to ask yourself that. And it's okay to bring folks to you that don't know yet, because they're looking for something. People are looking for answers. They're trying to find something to believe in. They're trying to find the direction. They're exhausted with, decisions and choices they've made in their life, the disappointments that they've had in their experience, people that have let them down. And so we also have to be good stewards of the people that come into our lives, because they are looking for something. They do have this expectation. And they're coming in side-eyed. They're coming in questioning. You're sus. Are you going to be just like everyone else that forsaken me, that turned me away, that let me down, that said you would be there for me? Right? So it makes it difficult. Makes it really stressful. But you have to take it seriously and understand, when you run across people that are intense and serious, there's a passion there and there's a reason. There is a sense of urgency, right? The unhoused are growing exponentially. We can look and see what's happening in XIII County, right? We don't have enough room. We don't have enough beds. We don't have enough jobs that pay a livable wage for folks to get into a space and not be evicted. We're just talking about XIII County. Now stretch that out to Seattle and Tacoma and San Francisco and New York and on and on and on. And look at the hundreds of thousands of people that are experiencing homelessness. Look at the weather that was just brutal that we just went through this last week. And some of us, sadly, don't even see it. It's the holiday time with our family and Christmas cheer and Santa, ho, 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 everything's all well and good. And folks are literally dying on the street. And that's tough. So how do you square that circle? right? Because you got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of your family. You have children. You got to do the best you can by them. But there are these other elements that are out here too. We cannot ignore them. And so we need to find balance. And the scary thing is, it's one thing when we went through COVID in churches and other organizations, their resources dried up. And all of a sudden they didn't have gas cards. They didn't have the disposable revenue to give to folks to put them up in the motels and hotels. And many haven't recovered. The need is still growing, but those resources are gone. And now those that may have helped in the past, they have fallen down on the class ladder. So they're not in a capacity to help the way that they did financially, or maybe even physically with their time, because they have to work a second job or a third job. There's been so much death. And I'm going to call it COVID-related death. Not only did a lot of people pass away during the years of COVID, but many of the leaders, the patriarchs or the matriarchs of the families, they were devastated. They were taken. So now who's the leadership in that family? Who's the breadwinner in that family? We're watching people dying now at younger and younger ages. Folks having heart attacks and, men in their 50s in great health. Teenagers. What's going on? We have to look at that. We have to look at that. Very important. Can't ignore it. All these things are connected, folks. They really are. All right, so let me get into this thing. I digress. I will have to edit and cut out the very beginning piece of this so that I can go into the manifesto, because that is not what I haven't even gotten into that. Like I said, it is related. But let's get into creating a sovereignty doctrine. Creating a sovereignty doctrine. Now, what I should probably do is bring up, let me go ahead and put this in the chat really quick so you know what we're talking about. Bam, I'll put that on the screen. Create a sovereignty doctrine. All right. So what does sovereignty mean? Sovereignty. And of course, I'm going to get really nasally because it's getting late. Let me go ahead and pull this over so I can put this on the screen for you guys. Okay. We do it like that. And I'm going to do it like this. All right. The doctrine of sovereignty today embraces several basic principles, such as that every state should have equal power to enter into treaties, non-interference in domestic affairs, although this has been qualified by international conventions on human rights, sovereignty over one's territories, and state immunity, although that doctrine of the restricted state immunity has dominated the international world during the last 20 years. Okay. People also ask, what is sovereignty? Sovereignty doctrine, sovereignty is the immense important in both domestic and international law. American constitutional law, for example, is that a sovereignty immunity. The doctrine holds that because the sovereign individual or entity is autonomous and not subject to the legal or practical yada yada yada, right? So, in part, you are able to make your own decisions over your life, over your body, right? The United States is a sovereign nation. And inside this nation, we have indigenous people who are sovereign in their laws, right? And how they enforce their community in the United States does not control that. And they continue to work and gain more sovereignty every day, right? I believe this is one of the things, the chief things that are missing in the Black community. And we can learn something from indigenous people. So when we look at the fact that we were brought here against our will, we lost our language, our culture. We think about immigrants that come here. Say you come from South Korea or Japan or Haiti or Jamaica or the DR or wherever you come from, right? There's a culture that is there. There's language that still exists. We don't have any of that, right? We have been forced to assimilate in. And so we have lost these things and we have no home to go to. Where is our home? Is it Uganda? Is it Ethiopia? Where is it? So when you are missing these things, we become even more wayward than we are now. And that's what we're seeing, right? We made a lot of gains post-slavery. So a lot of hard work that was done during the civil rights era. But, there's all these forces that are pushing against our own sovereignty. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that us as a collective don't agree on what we should be and what direction we should go into. You hear the term that, Black people are not a monolith. What that means is we don't all think the same. We don't all speak with one accord. We don't all have the same value set. And how could we? You can break up this country and folks from the South, they talk different, right? Southern hospitality. In the Northeast, they talk faster, they slick talking, right? They from New York. Folks from the Pacific Northwest, right? We have a different way that we do things, or a different way that we speak. You'll tend to hear things like, "Oh, you're very articulate," or "You sound white." Like, what does that mean? I sound white? Well, it's just because you speak the Queen's English very well, sir. Well, thank you for that. But think about it just from that standpoint, right? Just from the regions in the United States, we're going to be different. The food we eat, how we celebrate, traditions that we have. There's no white Christmas in most parts of California or Arizona, right? It's very different. But there's also a class piece. And as people ascend or descend class, things change. Jay-Z, Beyonce, right? They're atmospheric. They're stratospheric. They're not even relatable now, right? LeBron James, a level below. Bodyguards, where they vacation, where their kids go to school, what they have access to. Government workers making $200,000 a year, $150,000 a year. It's a different level. Their experiences are different. They have a boat. They have a vacation home. They take vacations. Where a lot of people live. $40,000 a year below. There's no vacations for them. Might be a staycation if it's that. Sick leave is their vacation. if they have sick leave. They may not be able to pay their rent. Most likely they're not homeowners. There's no home equity loan. There's no retirement. There's no stocks, bonds. If a loved one passes away, it's a GoFundMe. There's no life insurance policy. And then it goes down from there. So there's no way we can be a monolith. And so if I'm at a level where I'm bringing in $250,000 a year and my children are going to a private school and I own my home and I take vacations and I'm eating at different places, right? These are folks that typically like, I don't eat at McDonald's. That food is destructive to you. Well, they have the opportunity and the choice to do that, right? They're at Ruth Chris and other places like that. That's their experience. Yeah, absolutely. So now we're divided. We all look the same, but our experiences are different. And the way that society is set, what they tell you that is success is the higher that you climb from a class perspective. So how far can you get away from what you were born into? That's the value set. So that's difficult. And if you get there, how often are you going to look back and extend a hand and try to pull other people up with you? And understand that's a double-edged sword, because there's an envy and jealousness that can go along with that. And you'll hear the stories, especially from a lot of NBA players, right? They were raised in low-income neighborhoods. They were raised in extreme poverty. They actually hit the lottery and they make it into the NBA. They make it into the NFL. And they got to check in with the hood when they come back. And if they can't sever that hood stuff and that street mentality, then it's not safe for them to come onto the block. So we can think of Offset and the Migos, right? They're shooting dice in the hood. And the dude that wasn't even there shooting dice is the one that gets shot in the neck and murdered. The potential gone. Had made it out. But you're keeping it 100, right? You're coming back to the people. You want to throw some dice. You want to hang out with your folks. How tragic. But we don't have a sovereignty doctrine, which is a problem. We can't destroy those that make it out. That's the blueprint. Now, we can have a whole different discussion on whether or not, the words that are being said and promoted is not part of the matrix and the damage that it does to our community when what gets elevated is WAP and F and all that other stuff. That's a whole different conversation. But there's distribution and copyright, marketing, advertising, editing. There's all these other things that go along with it. So how do you become the record label? How do you create your own distribution if you believe that these other entities are taking advantage of you and giving you raw deals? Where are our attorneys that are advocating and defending our intellectual properties? Where are they at? How are we fostering and facilitating that? Or do we just continue to hire out? I was listening to the stats on the January 6th commission, and I'll have to pull that up. I'm not going to pull it up tonight. But one of the reports that I saw was that the attorneys were in the billions in regards to the fees for January 6th. Could you imagine that the total cost of litigating January 6th to be in the billions? You don't think that's a game? You don't think that's a game? Billions, just to argue a point. If that's not the Matrix, I don't know what is. But what are you trying to do? Are you trying to play the game? Because that's always the question, right? Do you want a place at the table, or do you want to destroy the table and build something else? And I think a lot of people are schizophrenic in their thought process in that. And they're torn between wanting to get to the table versus dismantling the table and doing something totally new. And some people will tell you, well, the way forward is to get to the table, get the money at the table, get the power at the table, and then change it. So you have all these people operating at different levels of this three-dimensional chess. And everyone else is playing with different rules. The system plays with one rule. And for some reason, we can't seem to beat the system. We know the play, we know the moves. They don't change. See, we're all experts when it comes to that, right? When it comes to politics, we'll say, Democrats, Republicans, two sides, two wings of the same bird, two sides of the same coin. Well, you know that. You know how they operate. How come you can't beat them? Well, you can't beat them because Raymond plays the game one way, Rob plays the game one way, I play the game one way. We're all playing a different game. And the way that I believe you play is stupid. So I can't get down with what you're doing. And in the meanwhile, the system just keeps playing the game the same way. And the people within the system, they argue, right? And while you can say, well, it's just what they do, but they're all friends at the end of it. No, those folks actually do go at each other. And they say some pretty vile stuff. But even if that were true, and you said it was all a game, how is it that they could say the most vile stuff about each other during campaigns and everything else, bus folks to, immigrants, to the vice president's house, and do all these different things that they've done, but they could still keep the game intact? How do they have enough self-preservation, presence of thought, and to be on code to continue to play the game if it's all fake? See, so either way, your argument doesn't hold true. And the question is why have you not learned yet to do the same way? There's a train of thought that says, hey, you can't use the tools of the enemy. I don't think that makes sense. I'm sorry, if I'm on the battlefield and there's a dead soldier in front of me and his weapon is there and he's got a couple clips, I'll pick that clip up and I'm going to use that gun. What are you talking about? That doesn't make sense. That's not logical. That's why it's important to understand history. When I was a kid, history was boring. It wasn't taught in an exciting way that can hold my attention and stimulation. But so many that have come before us have done many of the tactics and strategies that we're trying now, right? And we think it's just this bright idea. Oh, man, we're going to do this. Yeah, well, that was done 20 years ago. That was done 35 years ago. That was done last week. But you don't know because you don't analyze anything. You have to be a student in order to understand what's been done, what works, how does it work, can you build on it? Should you not even try that? That's just a waste of time. It's our own hubris that we think somehow we know better. And we've been on the scene for 5 minutes. And we're going to change things that have been in place for decades, if not longer. And we're going to change it immediately. That's not how it's going down. Create a sovereignty doctrine. Now, I'm not going to tell the indigenous story. One, because it's tremendously horrific and offensive. And two, I will never be able to do justice. But we loosely understand what happened to Native Americans and how they were decimated and destroyed, and how they are a mere percentage, low percentage of their original numbers. And yet, somehow, some way, resiliency, perseverance. And remember, there's many tribes throughout the country, many tribes within each state, right, that have different beliefs and thoughts. They have a sovereignty doctrine. So the blueprint has been made. And why I think it's important to use that doctrine is because it's one that has shown to work within the United States of America. We're so busy trying to invent something new, build something else, when what they've done works. It works. So what do we need? A collective council. That's important. Can't be one person, right? Because as great as I might think I am, and we all think we're great individually, I might have an issue with somebody. And if I do, how am I not going to be biased toward that person? I might really like somebody. And if I do, how am I not going to extend favor to them? So you can stop the cap and say, oh, no, I can do that. I can be impartial. No, you need a collective council with a diversity of thought, not an echo chamber of the same people. You need to create an after-school program. There are a lot of things that we used to do in the 60s during the Civil Rights era, when the dogs were put on us and the hoses and public beatings and hangings and all the different things that have happened, burning down property, domestic terrorism, open and legal. And folks were more together then than they were today. And ask yourself, how the hell is that possible? When we have all this technology, where we have all of this income, all of these resources, how is it that we are more divided today than ever before? How are they able to do so much more with less? Well, survival. Survival. See, we fell for the okie doke in the United States, which touts individualism, when the win is collectivism. And when you look, you can see collectivism when it works within capitalism. What do I mean? How businesses lobby and win. How big banks lobby and win. See, they exercise collectivism and they win in this capitalistic society. See, for us, we're so petty. We can't exercise collectivism, even though it will be the thing that helps us the most, even though we're pissed off at our brother or our sister. And we're like, you know what? This whole thing can burn down, but I'll be damned if I see you get anything. I'd rather none of us have it, if that means that you're going to get some of it. And the thing is that's not how they operate. You've got Bezos against Elon Musk. You've got wealthy Democrats against wealthy Republicans. But somehow they can all exercise collectivism when it comes to the things that are really important. And that's really what staying on code is. I think about how I hear stories from OG gang members that are no longer in the game. And what they've shared with me is that there's no respect from the young Thundercats anymore, right? They don't respect their elders. They don't respect the chain of command. They're just off doing their own thing. And so there was a time, and if you know your history on how Crips and Bloods even came to be in the first place, how they were so much stronger in the beginning, how they were so much stronger even when they were doing some pretty deplorable things. But now they're nowhere near what they were. But you could even say that about the mafia, right? Now, there was a concerted effort to go after the mafia in this country. But, you know, the remnants of those things still exist if you know where to look. But even they began to eat their own, and that was their downfall. So please understand that's not just a black thing, if you will. But that's why it's important to analyze history. You need to study yourself. You need to understand. When they say understanding where you came from, all of it is critical. Why would you openly make mistakes that you don't have to make and take setbacks and take L's that you don't have to take when all you have to do is check the history? To be a historian, that's all you got to do. It's not hard. Anyway, create after school programs. What's happening with our youth now? Whether it's the South Side of Chicago, and these are some of the most stark examples, right? But this is happening even here in Kitsap County. This is happening in Bremerton. It's happening in Port Orchard. It's happening in Silverdale. Our teenage boys and girls are hitting their teens, and the parent can't manage the child. And the child wants attention. The child wants love. And they're going to seek it somewhere. And that could end up in a teenage pregnancy. It could end up in joining a gang. And off to the races they go. Drugs, sex, all these things that are happening. And that potential of that child that we used to sing in the play and play the instrument and just be the sweetest kid is now lost. Their childhood forfeit. So many of us in our 40s and 50s, even late 30s, we've made our mistakes. We lived our life. We're going to get to an age where we're not going to be able to fight. The warrior can't be the warrior till the day they drop if they're in their 80s or 90s. At some point, they have to become the sage, wise counsel. Fighting is a young man's game. But are you breeding your warriors? Are you supporting the kids? Are you giving them the best chance? If it's the music industry, are you going to have lawyers from our kids that are going to protect our intellectual properties? Are we going to have our own sports leagues where we're the owners, where we're the agents that are negotiating the contracts? It's always kind of a crazy thing to me. And it's like I'm the one that's played, basketball since I was 4 and been in leagues since I was 6, and now I'm in the pros, and this is my job, and I work harder than most people do. There's no off season for me. And then the agent comes in and negotiates my contract for 15, 20%, whatever. Like literally, you're making money off of my knowledge, skills, and abilities. That's crazy. But that's the game. So we can be mad at the game, but then I go back to the question. Who's your agent? Do you keep the money in the community? Are you trying to be a part of the infrastructure of the system? Or are you trying to dismantle the system? If you think this is your way out and that's where you're going, then you're trying to be a part of the system. And honestly, I'm not going to hate on you if that's what you want to be. I just want to know what it is you're trying to do. Because when you tout the pro-black stance and you're like, oh yeah, down with the system. But what it really is you just want to take your place in the system. That's where I got a problem. And that's okay if you want to be in that space, right? Because a lot of people that move themselves in that space were able to look back and bring other people with them. Because that's effective too. But we just need to know what the game is that we're playing. All right. We need to address the affordable housing issues. When I talk about the collective, think about how it was. Again, we can go back to the 60s, before welfare and all those things kind of came in. We had, 3 generations of family living together. See, we've lost our own identity. We've lost our culture. So grandma doesn't live with us. We're not married. There's a study that just came out now that's saying that this type of marriage has now increased by 25%, where the married couples live in different places. How is that going to be conducive to an effective household when they know that all the statistics say that children that grow up in a 2-parent household do better by far? But what they tell us is, no, you don't want that. Single motherhood is a badge of honor. It's a thing to be admired. You go, queen. Strong, independent. But then what do you see? They can't make ends meet. They're stressed the hell out. Yeah, after school programs, mentors, teachers. That's right. It's critical. Absolutely critical. So you have to have that. Because what are our children going to inherit? The same struggle, the same strife, the same issues. We want better for our children. And it's going to get to a point where they're going to have to turn back and take care of us. Or we're going to be down at Salvation Army. Lost and forgotten, rejected. Because that's what I see now. And understand, black folks here in this county, while we are only 3% of the population and many of the unhoused are not black, a lot of white folks are unhoused down here. When white people catch a cold, black people catch COVID or the flu. We get it so much worse. I have friends right now that can't find I'm talking about white friends, that can't find a place to stay. They have good rental history, but they don't make 3 times the rent. And they can't find a place to stay. So if a white family can't find a place to stay, what do you think is going to happen to you? How much harder is it going to be for you? And I don't think many of us in the social service sphere really understand that. Why were there so many people that needed eviction assistance help? Why are there so many people now that need help a 3rd, a 4th, a 5th time now? See, they can evict now. What do you think is going to happen once those people get out and they don't extend the lease? Because that's happening to some of our prominent folks here in this community. Oh, we're just going to go month to month with you now. We're not going to sign any more 6-month or 12-month leases with you. And once we get you out, you aren't getting back up in here. You ain't getting back up in here. So what is that going to look like? Well, and that get in where you fit in, that's been the problem with us for the longest, right? It's all man, woman, and child for themselves. And that's destroyed our community because we're no longer a collective. We're no longer a family. We can't live together. We can't work together. We can't break bread together. We can't argue, get to a disagreement, and get over it and continue and move forward. For the most part, it is said that, Black people in this country, we're the trendsetters. People, follow what we do. Music, things like that. So why did we embrace cancel culture? So now we're canceling each other out. And that's part of the game, right? Because at the top, they're not canceling each other out. Think of all the, Elon Musk buying Twitter, right? They're fighting, throwing billions around. He's got it. And what did the liberals, white folks say? We're going to cancel. We're not going to use Twitter. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. He even started charging them monthly. He let people back onto Twitter that, many on the left thought were just deplorable people and should never be on there. They're racist, they're homophobic, they're yada, yada, yada. And what are they doing? They're still using the platform, right? So you got to look past what they're telling you that you should see and really analyze what it is for what it is. So all those same folks that hate Elon Musk are steadily tweeting against him, right? They're still using and supporting the platform that they say they hate because he merely bought it, right? And of course, it pisses him off. He gets emotional about it, right? Trump gets emotional about the attacks that come in, but they're playing the game. Got to be smarter than that. We have to address our affordable housing issues. And there's a lot of different ways that we can do that. One of those ways is acquiring property. Okay, that is something that G2 is looking to do. We were looking into an opportunity here, I think around December 15th. And there was an opportunity that had come up, and was trying to work with KCR, Bremerton Housing Authority, to buy some multi family unit. You have to own things. Can't not own anything, right? You got to understand the game. We have to address our homelessness issue, right? We are creating a sovereignty doctrine. And that means that you have to take care of your people. All of your people, not the ones you're cool with. We need to create new dwellings, add-ons that will allow multifamilies regardless of relation to dwell together. So what does that look like? Again, we are resilient. We are inventive. When I was in my foster home, when I was 16, across the street was a Hispanic family, or I should say Hispanic families. And in this house, probably a 4-bedroom home, a family lived in each bedroom. And the way that they did it, so there's like almost 20 people in that house, right? So the way that they did it was a family lived in the house, family of 4 or 5 or whatever, all lived in a room. And they broke up their common areas, how they had to do whatever they did. And they pooled their money together, and they would buy a home, and one family would move out. So the master bedroom would move out, right? And now they're in their home. And they would just keep rinsing and repeating until everyone had a home. But oftentimes, a couple with no children can't figure out a way to live together. Hell, I couldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? I'm divorced. But they have multiple families in a home together because they were on mission. They had a plan. They knew it wasn't forever. They knew it was going to be hard, but there was a goal. And then they can use first time buyer programs and other situations like that. They could leverage the property that they own to get other property, which now started to make it easier to acquire property. And they created their own ecosystem. So why can't we do that? Because again, we were let free behind enemy lines, right? Here in America. There was no home country to go to, so we were stuck here. While people are coming over here, still have their traditions and their cultures. It's one of the reasons why they're able to do that. And as we have been assimilated into this individualistic society, we don't understand how to be collective. You see, material things are so much more important than everything else. And material things that have no value. You got $10,000 worth of shoes. That's fantastic. How is that helping you? How is that helping the community? My daughter should be asleep. She's sending me a text. Like, girl, it's midnight. You're buying this, that, and the other. These depreciating assets, if they're even assets. What is your focus? Ray says, so true, this country is full of forgotten individuals lacking the support from families and outreach programs. Exactly. Cancel culture by far is the number one agenda thrown at us by our own people, knowing or unknowing. Agree with that too. And to your point here where you're saying lacking support from family and outreach programs, see, charity starts at home. That's why we have to work on the family, right? We can't just continue to catch people after they've been rejected, after they're in the street. We got to attack the problem at the source. They should have never been ostracized or jettisoned from their family. They should have never been not taught the values, good family values and morals that they have to feel like they need to run and do what they want to do. But a part of that is society getting a hold of that mind and telling them, you don't need your family. You don't need that support system. Reject that. You don't need your brother or sister. You don't need your mother. You don't need your father. You don't need to respect them. So we have to address the issue. We have to cure the cancer, not the symptoms. All right. But we need to create those new dwellings and add-ons. So what are some different ways we can do that? You can look and see, you have folks that have RVs in their driveways and their families are living there. And I'll see it a lot where the in-laws or the parents will be living in the RV and the kids will be living in the homes with their children, right? You see that. But that's a new way of doing things. So in what ways can we do things where we can create that stability? Think about this. There's 5 of you. And each of you make $2,000 a month. Not a lot of money. 5 of you make $2,000 a month. Now, the 5 of you all have your own apartment. So it costs you $1,000. Let's say you're lucky enough to find a place to rent here for $1,000. That's half of your income. Now they suggest that you only use 30% of your income on your rent, but you're using 50, right? That's typical. That's actually very realistic. So now we're telling you, man, you need to be a part of collective. You need to save. You need to do this. You need to, put this money aside so you can buy equipment and materials so you can start your own business or do whatever, right? Okay, I'll get right on that. But I got to pay my car note. I got to pay my gas. I got to pay my insurance. I got to get on the bus. I got to pay for rides. If it's after 8:30, hey, Rob just left out of here taking someone to work. There's no buses to get her to work. Tell her I say hello. And the grandbaby. So They're just spinning their wheels. And their contribution at best might be $10, $15 that they could put in the kitty to do what it is they're going to do. Now, let's say these 5 individuals, they say, you know what, we're going to stay together. And what we're going to do is we're going to change the game. Traditionally, we don't really use dining rooms how they were before. Even when I grew up, our dining room was like a museum piece. Now, we used it during special occasions, but the table was set with decoration plates, right? Well, that could be another area. So now let's say these folks are in a space that costs them $2,000 a month. But remember, they're all bringing in $2,000 a month. So now, as a collective, these 5 folks are bringing in 10 grand a month. The rent cost 2,000. Well, now they're only using 20% of their collective funding instead of 50% of their individual funding. Now, all of a sudden, what can they do? They could put 1,000, they could put 1,500, they could put 2,000 collectively toward what it is they're going to do. Right? And this is monthly. So if they're putting 2,000 in there, or if they're really tightening their belt and they're saying, hey, man, we're going to try to get like 3 grand in here. After a year, they got $36,000 cash sitting there. Right? And we're not even going to talk about if they're putting it in savings or a money market or whatever, right? There's 36,000 set. This isn't hard. This isn't hard to do. And you do not have to do something grandiose. This person could be a Jack in the Box. This person can be a Sherry's. This person can be at the car wash. But they're bringing in $2,000 a month. See, sometimes we think we can only do it if we're just hustling out of control. You know, the story of the tortoise and the hare is so true. That hare runs so fast out the gates. Boom. The gun fires, the hare's gone, right? Running backwards, laughing. Oh, I'm hustling. I got this side hustle over here. I'm doing this. I'm driving Uber. I'm doing Uber Eats. I moved. I made some money over here. I got so much extra, man. I went ahead and bought these shoes. I put some rims on this bad boy. You know, I'm dumping all this money on the ladies. I'm taking this chick out here. I'm taking this chick out there because I'm showing out. Okay. Rabbit just doing his thing. Hare just doing his thing, right? Living his best life. Tortoise is just grinding. Rabbit's like, man, you tripping, man. There ain't no way I'm going to go and work for the man. I ain't going to work for no man. I ain't working for no McDonald's. I ain't working in no Arby's. You got to be tripping. I ain't built like that, son. I'm too good for that. I'm above that. The tortoise just keeps working, bringing his $2,000 a month in, putting it to the side, being realistic, understand when he's simping, right? Because he's smart enough to know he's more red pill. He's looking at it like, wait a minute. So I'm going to go and dump a rack on this chick or 2 racks on this chicken for what? What is that doing? My mind isn't focused on my mission and where I'm trying to go. All right. And your boys are telling you, oh, man, no, we rabbits, man. You know how rabbits get down. You know what they say about rabbits and sex, right? We rabbits. You got to be out here getting your rabbit on. And if you ain't getting your rabbit on, son, man, you ain't really a rabbit. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to shame you. The tortoise is like, nah, I'm cool, man. I'm cool. I might go out here or there, but I'm going to be very selective. Maybe we'll do a coffee date. Maybe we'll walk in the park. Because at the end of the day, is she with me because of who I am and what I could do for her? Or is she with me because of who I am for me? So, you know, I value that more. You know what I'm saying? Is she just waiting for me at the finish line, you know, and she likes me because of what I could do and all the bling? Because the rabbit just like, yeah, let's make it rain. Come on, let's get a bottle. That's right. We got all kinds of marijuana over here. Let's get our smoke on. Go ahead, girl. No, go ahead. We can blaze this joint. I'm talking ignorant now because I don't smoke weed. And you look up, and the tortoise, a couple of tortoises, they got together. There's 3 of them, so they bringing in six grand a month to collectively. They're staying in a spot that's 1,500. They've set up their rules. They have the sovereignty of the 3 of them in their space. And so they've got $4,500 left over every month. That rabbit, that $1,000, he got that for his rent. And then he's so superficial and everything else, he don't really have anything else left, right? Because when he gets paid, he's flashing all that money. And it looks like he's got it all, right? Because it looks real flashy. Thing is when you take it all off, you just wear the turtleneck, a tank top underneath. You bald, you got your nappy hair because you didn't comb it. It really ain't no thing. And then when you look up in 2 or 3 years, the tortoise has made real gains. His ascension on the ladder, he has a solid footing. Other people, the rabbit has ran up the ladder a little bit, but they don't have a good handhold. That ladder is slick. It's full of motor oil. So the first thing that happens, the rabbit falls. And the rabbit keeps telling you, oh man, son, there ain't nothing. I can get back up. I could do this again. Ain't no thing, man. That's how I'm built. Sometimes easy come, easy go. Just do what you do, what you will. Okay? Tortoise steadily climbing. Man, you boring. You boring as hell. Consistency. You know what happens? Is all while this is happening, the rabbit is coming to the tortoise. Hey man, let me hold on to something. I'll give it back to you. Hey man, let me do this. I know I can count on you. Because even though you're not going as fast and flashy as I would like it, man, I know that you're a rock. That you're stable, that you can weather the storm. That when hard times come, you prepared because you sacrificed. And it really is not even a sacrifice because, again, it's how you look at things. Is it a sacrifice or is it prioritizing your values? I know hard times going to come. And I know when hard times going to come, I don't want to miss a meal. When hard times going to come, I don't want to have my cell phone off because I still need to get in contact with folks. When hard times come, I want to be able to repair my car so I can get to work. When hard times come, I still want to be able to pay my rent or deal with this emergency or this crisis. I'm working toward this outcome, and when I get here in 5 years, I'm going to be able to purchase that vehicle or that business or those materials or that home or pay for that course so that I can make it to the next rung of the ladder and have a good solid hold so that if something happens and maybe I fall a little bit, I don't fall all the way back down. Maybe I fall only a rung or two. And because I didn't hit my chin on the rung going down, it's easier for me to climb back up and recover from it. That is a hard thing to do. That's a hard decision to make when you've got rabbits all around you. When I first started this podcast, one of the things that I challenged people to do was to meet 5 new people a month. 5 new people a month. Perspectives, experiences. There's so much for you to learn, to be taught. There's this part of life that you don't even know that exists. Think about it. You have the unhoused. You have folks that are literally living in the woods, abandoned homes, the rescue mission, Salvation Army, in tents on the sidewalk. You have folks that are couch surfing, staying with friends, being homosexuals, trading sex for shelter. You have folks that are going to work and barely making it and paying their rent and trying to figure out how they're going to pay their rent the next day. You have folks that make enough money to pay their rent, comfortably, take vacations, save up some money, buy a home. You have folks that are able to have a second home, a vacation home, to have retirement, to be able to take vacations in different countries. You have folks that have boats and other luxury vehicles, and they're able to do recreational things. And they're good. Their kids are good. And all of this is in Kitsap County. And the folks down here have no idea how the folks up here are living. But we walk past each other every day. How crazy is that? How crazy is that? On ML King, when folks leave that shipyard, folks that are making $50, $60, $70, $80 an hour, walk past or drive past those that are unhoused. That's a mind-blowing thought if you really think about that. How are they there? How are they able to do that? What would you need to do? For whatever reason, if it's one of the isms on why you can't do it and why you've been locked out of it, one thing we are is we're a resilient people. We're a creative people. So what do we need to do to change the game and get there? Because we made it through slavery and Jim Crow and the civil rights area and redlining and. So what do we do now? What can we do? What are some of those who have made it? What have they done? But more than that, that sovereignty, that is what I believe. That sovereignty doctrine is what will change that. We need to have our own law enforcement. Indigenous folks do. How is it okay that we have all of these murders? And I'll use the South Side of Chicago because everybody uses that example. How does your baby boy, who you love and adore as an infant, who you love and adore as a toddler, all of a sudden hits 13 and is now uncontrollable, and at 15 and up is doing drive-bys and selling drugs and doing the most, feeling rejected by his own circle? How is that possible? How is that possible? And then how is it possible that it is allowed in the community? And folks just deal with it. And they deal with the innocent collateral damage, deaths, and destruction, the destruction of property value, of businesses, of life. It's destroying generations. How is that possible? And I use the South Side of Chicago because it's stark. You can really understand that, but that's everywhere. It's happening everywhere. We need our own law enforcement. See, if you have a sovereignty doctrine, then there's things that ain't gonna happen in the community. That's always been my big critique of folks that just think they're the baddest things on the block. Because you will victimize your own people, but you don't do that to the police, and you don't drive over to the nice side of town and do it to them. So you clearly aren't as Billy Badass as you think. Oh, it's easy to take me down here. I got a cane. I'm a soft target. Come on. And that's what you do. But you the baddest thing in the jungle, right? But you don't mess with the cops at all. It's very interesting. Very hard to understand your mindset on that. We need our own military. And understand law enforcement and military are two different things. When you think about Black Wall Street, the thing that we didn't have is our own way to protect what we built. And so they were able to come in there and destroy it. And understand, there were several Black Wall Streets. There weren't one. Several throughout this country. Now, we have individual Black Wall Streets now, and you're watching them get destroyed. Kyrie Irving, Kanye West, or Ye. See, they're the embodiment of Black Wall Street now. Andrew Tate, who's half Black, if you're watching what's happening with him currently. Prince, Michael Jackson, Bill Cosby, R. Kelly, we can keep going on. Chris Brown. That is the equivalent of Black Wall Street today. Education. This is a huge one. I watch people complain about what education we receive in our public schools. Oh, they don't teach us financial literacy. Oh, they don't teach us this. Oh, we're not going to use math formulas in the real world. As a math teacher, business math teacher at the college, I'm going to be biased toward that. But you need to understand that math is so much more than just solving equations. It's problem solving. It's being able to follow steps. It's processing. Right? Show your work. It's important for us that you show your work. You can tell me 2x equals 16, solve for x. Well, I can see that the answer is 8, right? We can all do that problem in our head. But what you don't see is, you have to divide the 2 from the x, right? To isolate the unknown variable. But what you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other side. So if you're going to divide the left side of the equation, 2x by 2, then you're going to divide 16 by 2. And when you do that, you're left with x equals 8. Now you can replug that into the equation. 2 multiplied by 8 equals 16. Can you show your work? Logic, following steps. Those are transferable skills. I want to launch a business. I want to figure out how to solve homelessness, food insecurity, how we can collaborate, how we can come together. Can you show your work? Can you follow the process? Can you teach the process? That's why math is important. It's not so much the Pythagorean theorem, but for our engineers, that's going to be important. What do you value? And again, soft target. It's your, I know, you put it in there twice because I know I'm not really a soft target. So probably not, you probably don't want to come in here. But yes, I do laugh. I appear to be a soft target, but that's part of the art of war. But I won't tell all the things out there. If you have not read Sun Tzu, then you need to. That should be mandatory reading, warriors. But in a public school, they have your kids for about 6 hours, 9 to 3. Okay? You've got assemblies, you've got lunch, you've got, in-teacher service days. Kids are at home. And so when you complain that the kids aren't getting the education they need, what are you doing for your kids the other 18 hours? They're your kids, i.e., that means they're your responsibility. So if they're not learning history, they're not learning math, they're not learning financial literacy, that's your fault. Because why? You're plugging them willingly into the public school system that clearly isn't giving them what you say they need. And then you complain and say, well, they're not doing what they should do with my kids. They got them for 6 hours. They're not miracle workers. And if your kid is going to school and acting a fool because they don't have any home training, what do you expect? Charity starts at home. One of the things that my dad told me. Charity starts at home. Education starts at home. As long as you value your kid playing basketball and football and everything else over the basic fundamentals, and we'll get into that as we get down there. Reading, math, history. You don't give a damn about United States history? Fine. But what is the history that you do care about? Did you know that Quincy Jones was from this area? That the Q Center that they're building downtown, Q is for Quincy? Did you know that? Do you know about the Black history here and who came before? That we just elected the first female Black judge in XIII County. Do you know that? Why is that important? It's important because your kids, you yourself, but your kids need to know what can be achieved. What has already been done? You're going to run for office? You should. Have the temerity. Have the unmitigated gall. How are you going to change a system if you don't understand the system? And again, maybe you don't want to change the system. You just want to be a player in the system. Either way, you're going to have an understanding of how the system works. How are you going to change the game if you don't even know how to play it? It's not logical. And that's an investment. Food and water sustainability. Well, we're all dead if we don't have food or water. And when folks outside of yourself control what you need to stay alive, you got a problem. That means that you're going to compromise your values. You do not have sovereignty. You have to do what they say, how they say it, in order for you to have food and water. But let's go back and talk about post-slavery and how powerful we were back then. How we were farmers and builders. How we were able to live off the land. Now most of us will starve to death if it was up to us to grow even one fruit, one vegetable. We wouldn't make it. These things are important. And if you're going to have a community, and you're going to be a sovereign community, you have to be able to control these things. And so you're going to tell me that the farmer is less important than the politician that sits on the council? Hell no. Are you going to tell me that the security is less important than the farmer because you got to protect the crops? Hell no. This is how I want you to begin to think. Everyone has to play their position, and their position is imperative, essential. And you should take it deadly damn serious. Because if it's your job to protect, you are protecting the most precious asset, which is the people. You are protecting the elders. You're protecting the sages. You're protecting the teachers. You're protecting the children. You're protecting the mothers. You're protecting those that are learning the skills, the vocational things to take care of the community. If you are the farmer, you're feeding everyone. If you're the builder, you're providing the shelter for all. You're teaching that skill. You're repairing the dwelling so that it will last longer, so that it's not this sunk cost of repair after repair after repair because the person wasn't able to upkeep that. And for those that have ever flipped homes, have done restoration, you understand that. You go into a home that hasn't had regular maintenance done to it. Sometimes you got to tear that thing down to the studs. It's tore up. Like, how did you let it go so far? Look at this. This asset is worth $500,000. This asset is worth $250,000. Look what you did to this asset. Maintenance. There's a cost to that. Insurance. Hopefully you don't need it, but you have it just in case. That's what insurance is. There's a cost associated with that. Entrepreneurship. We need this. This is important. We all have different knowledge, skills, and abilities. And what I want you to think of is, there was a time when we operated a lot on a barter system, right? I grow these crops, I trade you these crops. I've got milk or I've got chickens and I trade you for corn. You're a mechanic and I trade you for carpentry. You have healthcare and I trade you for transportation. What is it that you have of value to the community? That's right. Raymond's saying, I just talked to the guys about the difference between just working and doing the work and problem solving and exceeding expectations of the work being done. You have to value what it is you're doing, and you have to understand what the work does. Raymond, when we were doing concessions, and that's a hard job, right? You get up, everyone heads out at about 4 p.m. They go to the event, and we're not even talking about working the triple doubles, like the high school wrestling stuff. You walk 1.5 miles to the stadium, you get all checked in, you get your uniform on, you get into the stand. The stadium never has everything how it's supposed to be. Stuff is broke, whatever the case may be. You get slammed. The customers are coming. So many of them are drunk. They want their stuff now. This stuff ain't ready. You doing the best you can. Tensions are high. There's 60,000 people in the stadium, right? It's crazy. It ends. You're tired. Your feet hurt. Your back hurts. Your head hurts. It's cold because you worked at an event and you're outside on the 200 level and the train is to your back and the wind is blowing on you. Your hands are so frozen you can't even open the bottles. You still got to clean up. You still got to do the count. They got to do the count again. They got to do a count a third time. Then you got to find everyone. Now you got to walk back another 2 miles to the van. Now you got to drive another 1.5 hours home. Oh, and you're the driver. Or even if you ain't the driver, you riding. You're the last one to be dropped off. You don't get done till 2:30. You don't get home till 3 a.m. And all that for $50. What the hell? $50 wasn't the point. What it was is giving people who would otherwise be stuck in the county, and I don't mind, it's the devil's playground, as they say, something else to do, to pour into something that has purpose, to work on soft skills, to work on hard skills, to learn teamwork, to learn to work in a high-paced environment, counting money, being accurate, checking IDs, following instructions, being with other people, getting out of their shell, and keeping a nonprofit open that gives the organization the ability to continue to do its mission in the community. But if you don't see it like that, and all you see it is, man, I'm just running a concession booth, then it has no value to you. It has no meaning to you. And you don't understand your place in the machine. And so when you say, I just talked to the guys about the difference between just working and doing the work and problem solving, if you can get them to understand the value in the position that they're playing and why it's so important and integral to the mission at large and to themselves, to their own personal development, then you'll have folks that'll be at your side for far longer and be so much more of an asset to themselves and to the group and to the collective and to the community, right? Because there's three things. There's the individual, there's the group, and there's the community that you serve. And it can be done because there's a lot of us that are doing it. The question is how do you get there? And how you get there is looking at things in a different way. Not going along to get along. Not being caught up in what the dominant society or the matrix has told you to believe. That job isn't important. That you need a title. That you need to make so much to do that. That the only reward is monetary. That you don't have things that you need to learn, and you need a place to practice. Because see, it's one thing for you to learn. You've heard the saying, there are a lot of folks that are book smart. But knowledge without application, what is it? It's just knowledge. I know a bunch of stuff. You know people like that, right? You know the know-it-all person that can't do anything. The application. And the only way that you can get that application is to be tried by fire. You must be forged in the flames of experience. And you have to understand for yourself that you can and you will do it when it gets hard. When there's something else that looks better. Oh man, this honey want to go out. I don't want to go and do concessions today. Oh man, I feel a little under the weather. I don't want to go and do concessions today. I don't want to increase the agenda. I don't want to be on mission today. I don't want to be a warrior today. I don't want to make progress today. I don't want to grow the organization today. I don't want to feed someone who don't have a meal today. I don't want to give a ride to someone who needs a ride today. I just don't. So I'm not. Once you get that value, then it's so much easier for you to stay on mission. And you don't care what other people have to say about you. You don't care what society has to say about you. Man, why are you doing that? That's stupid. And Raymond will tell you. He'll attest to that. People inside the organization will say, oh, man, why are you doing all this work? Why are you working so hard, man? You should go over here. You can get paid this much an hour if you go over here. Why are you there? The enemy, your ops, might be your friends. And they may actually, unfortunately, think they're helping you. Now, I would say they knew better than that. That really wasn't a help. But the lessons and the knowledge, the skills and abilities that Raymond was gaining during that time had nothing to do with money. It had to do with survival and resilience and being to help others. See, my father's no longer here. So all I have are the lessons that he told me. And this isn't the future, so I can't go back and replay a video of him telling me and teaching me. It's lost now. And as I get older, some of those lessons are going to be forgotten. It's one of the reasons why I think it's important to document these conversations so that people can go back and be re-energized from these conversations. Sometimes you have to listen to it all the time. When you think about organized religion and going to church every Sunday, going to Bible study every Tuesday, singing in the choir, what is it? You're staying on code. You're staying on mission. You know, I steady keep my mind on Jesus. Right? Hallelujah. Because if I'm doing that, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. What are the things that are going to distract you and take you away from the mission? Because, man, there's so many enticing things. And even now, I would not be doing anything wrong if I were to just rest. I should be laying in the bed, watching some TV, maybe reading a book, but I'm on mission. My little pain medicine done wore off hours ago. Oh, man, the first 2 days, that ain't nothing nice. All right, let's continue on. Entrepreneurship is important. Donate used items to the collective for reuse. So often we sell things that we don't have need for. We throw things away we don't have need for. It could be an easy repair for someone. Maybe someone is like, oh man, I don't want to wear these jeans are beat to hell. You know what? That would be a good pair of work jeans for someone else. You don't have to wear that same pair of jeans every single day. They don't have to worry about an odor because they only have 2 pair of jeans. So they got to wear them 3 or 4 times in a week. So if they have that other pair of jeans that you just don't care about because you have an abundance, that allows them to switch into those jeans and then get to a point where they're only doing laundry once a week, right? Which saves them money. A desk, a bed, a printer. Donate the items to the collective for reuse. And don't donate garbage. You know what's trash. We take in a lot of things. And one of the most offensive things that I see is when people try to give us stuff that's just straight garbage. Like, this is broken and no one could do anything with this. Like, what are you... Well, I just thought someone could... No, you just didn't want to take it to the dump or throw it away yourself. That's pretty damn selfish. But reach out and give enough time. By the time you're ready to get rid of something, all of a sudden it's like, man, I'm cleaning out my garage. Hey, man, you got like 2 days to come get this stuff or it's going in the trash. Wow. Once you give enough time for that information to circulate out in the community so that folks can find out about it and then try to make arrangements to take advantage of your goodwill. That'd be really powerful to do. But money isn't just the physical currency of the US dollar. There are so many different things of value that we have. But we're so quick. We want it gone. We just want it gone. Hey, come get it because it got to go. Give it some time. And understand, too, folks will try to sell things far above what it's worth. And I paid $1,000 for this, so I'm trying to get at least $800. And this thing is worth $200. Like, what are you doing right now? So you're never going to sell it. And then you usually end up, by the time no one takes it over, because you hung on to it for a while, you finally get to the point where it's like, okay, and you just end up giving it away, right? It's like, come on, be realistic. Concessions by and far were a hard job in so many levels, lots of pressure with the mental and physical fatigue, all along doing it with a smile so that the customers felt appreciated. Yeah. But there's so much that goes into that. There's so much that goes into that. You talk about iron sharpens iron and being forged. Can you do that? Right? Can you hold your emotion when someone is drunk and belligerent and is talking crazy to you? They're not in their right mind. So if that is triggering you, you're the one with the weak mind. If you are in a high stress environment and you're fighting amongst each other and you can't build each other up and support or kick in when you see that your man is failing or your girl is failing and she needs to tap out for 10 minutes, you're hurting too. But you got a little bit more than she got and you can't give her a 10, 15-minute reprieve, or you can't rally the team because their morale is low. There you go. Needless to say, the experience allowed me to gain self-worth and dignity, self-esteem, that you can, and understanding that most folks that don't have to deal with a lot of stressors in life, right? Because you're still dealing with, we're picking folks up and holding their spot open at the homeless shelter, right? So they're dealing with that and still able to execute at such a high level. See, they're going to need that later on in life. Mr. Miyagi, wax on, wax off. You can't always see the lesson, but you have to trust and believe in something. Trust and believe in the process. Creating a barter system, I believe, is important because we don't have the money. Inflation, everything is overpriced. I can't afford the rent, but you know what I can do? I can come over here and move this furniture for you. I can come over here and do this for you. And in exchange, it's food, it's this, it's that. This is how you're going to make it through. And the more that you can do, the more that you're going to be able to barter for. The more relationships you're going to make. See, relationships are important. It can get to a point where you happen to get introduced to a homeowner. And while you couldn't find a place to rent on your own because they kept rejecting you, now you've got this relationship with this homeowner. They know who you are. They know what you're about. They know what you do. And they're like, you know what? I got a spot over here. And they tell you that try not to burn bridges because you never know when you're going to have to recross that bridge. You want to always be building bridges because you never know when you need to cross a bridge. We never talk about that part of it, right? We just say, don't burn the bridge that's already been built. But you should always be building bridges. So when I say always be closing, it's the ABCs. Raymond had just had brought that up to me earlier, right? Always be closing. It's like, oh, I told someone about the organization. What was their name? I don't know. What was their phone number? I didn't get that. So these folks are pretty busy people. So now you have to hope that they're going to remember, have the time to make that call, make that connection. When if you just spend a little bit more time within the conversation and you got the information, then you could follow up. Hey, remember we met at this event a couple weeks ago? Just wanted to let you know who I was and send you this information and remind you of what we did. You know, can we chat? Right? Always be closing. But create that barter system. You should always be creating bridges because you don't know when you're going to have to cross over. That's networking, right? Now, people just say networking. It's like, okay, yeah, no, I need to meet people. No. So much more than that. You don't know what folks are going to be able to do for you or what doors are going to be open. And it may not be that person directly, but it may be a person of a person. Ooh, the stories I could tell from that. Employment, right? We have to create opportunities for people to work. But that also means creating opportunities for people to gain experience. You know, I talked about my board, my original board, right? Shaylin was a board member for G2. She's one of the original set board. You know, she's a board member for Catalyst and a very prominent voice in the community. So you got to think about those things. You have to provide those experiences to people. So often they'll say, hey, you know what? We're looking for this person and we want 5 years experience. You're like, well, how the hell am I supposed to get the experience if no one will give me an opportunity to get the experience? So maybe that experience isn't paid, but you need the experience. So you have to employ your people. You have to put them in the position that they can document the time that they're doing these different activities, gaining these soft skills, gaining these hard skills. Service comes with a price, yeah. Healthcare. There was a time we were never able to get it off the ground the way that we wanted. But there's a trinity, mind, body, and spirit, right? You got to work on your mental. You have to work on your spiritual relationship. And you also have to work on the physical. And all three of those things are important. Well, I'm not the physical advisor, clearly, right? But there was one. I wasn't necessarily the spiritual advisor, although I can kind of be in that position. More the mental advisor. And so that trinity is important for an individual. That trinity is important for a collective. That trinity is important for a community. Mind, body, and spirit. That organism needs to have all three, and it all needs to be healthy. Because you don't know what storm you're going to have to weather. Reparations I talked about before. We need to restore vocations. Black folks like to brag, coming out of, through slavery and coming out of slavery. Like, we built this country. We built the White House. Benjamin Banneker laid out the way Washington, D.C. is mapped out, right? Black man invented the elevator. George Washington Carver. We can name all of these inventors and all of the great things that we've done over time. But now those things are lost. We can't name the great carpenters, the great roofers, the great plumbers, the great engineers, the great doctors that modified open heart surgery. I can't remember what his name is. That was a brother. But we need to restore those vocations. Remember, there was a time when, the family, that's what they were, right? They were smiths. They were blacksmiths. They forged, there were generations of sword forgers. And I'm not saying, create a class society where, that's what your family does. But we need to get back to that, right? That is part of what the dominant society laments off of, right? There was a time when, hey, my great-grandfather was a policeman, my grandfather was a policeman, my dad was a policeman, and now I don't have the opportunity to be a policeman, right? And they feel some kind of way about that. My dad was a firefighter, I'm a firefighter. Mom was a doctor, I'm a doctor, right? So those things are being lost. You can't afford to hire a plumber and a carpenter and an electrician and a roofer and a window installer and a framer, just on and on and on and on, right? These skills are wasted and lost. And when you call these folks up, they charge them, what, $100 an hour? Oh, don't let it be an emergency. It's a weekend. It's a holiday. Oh, they charging you double and triple. Oh, you locked your keys in your car? Yeah, we'll be to you in an hour. That's gonna be $200. You know what? But you need to get in. Restoring our vocations. Sovereignty means that you can do what you need to do on your own. How's Butch doing? Self-sufficiency from a community standpoint. And so I put construction and framing there. But we also need to pursue current trends. So while we need to look to the past and restore our vocations in our community, we also need to understand what is going forward. STEM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. If we're going to call it STEAM, that would be the A in there. Social media, because there are a lot of people that are able to monetize and make a living off of that. And not only, if you look at channels that, are making 10, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 a month and doing social media, they have a team, which means they're employing people. It's not just one person. They're hiring editors and SEO marketers and all these different things, right? So that is building the community up. So you have to look at what current trends are, and you have to make sure that you're on the cutting edge. Right now, they have robots, i.e., computer programs that are buying up real estate and making it unaffordable for us. Most people don't know that. So what is the counter to that? How are we going to combat that? Well, they can't build housing enough. But when it comes on the market really quick, it's the same thing with investment in stocks, right? They've got computer programs that are trading literally seconds before the market opens. And so you'll see all this fluctuation that happens before you even get a chance to tell your broker to do something. And the way we're going to do that is number 18. Okay? Realigning our cultural values. Right now, we value sports over education. Education comes first. Most athletes retire in their 30s. What are they going to do? If they live to 70, they have another 40 years of life left. What are they going to do when they can no longer run a football down the middle? When they can no longer dunk a basketball? When they can no longer swing a tennis racket? What are they going to do? Education over sports. Jobs instead of entrepreneurship. We've got to switch into entrepreneurship, into having something of value to barter. Oh, you cook out of your home and you sell plates? Well, what can you barter that for? What skill is that? Can you get to a point where you are able to pay other people to help you to do that? Distributors and producers instead of artists. I think of artists and as being kind of a cow, right? And everyone else is sucking on the teat of the cow, which is the artist. And so the artist gets projected out there, and the producers taking their percentage, and the distributors taking their percentage, and all these folks are taking their piece of it. And oftentimes these artists are broke, right? These 360 deals, advancements, and this and that. Oh, we had to advance all this money to get your album out there and do all this, that, and the other. We made sure that you can, be in the VIP and pop bottles and do all this and rent the cars and yada, yada, yada. You don't own none of that stuff, right? You're also damaging the community because you're putting out this false image that's not real. You don't even live that way. A lot of our rap artists were married, right? Ice Cube, Snoop Dogg, E40. These are some of my favorites, right? All married. Distributors, producers, lawyers, workers instead of ownership. We have to own. We've got to shift into owning businesses. We have to shift into that mindset. And if we are workers, we're working for our businesses. Everyone wants to, we've got this romantic image of Black Wall Street. But Black Wall Street had janitors and garbage men and mail carriers and secretaries, right? The whole ecosystem, everyone playing their role in order for it to get to where it is. So ownership only happens if you have workers that you're taking care of. And the workers have to believe in the business in order to grow it. If you're going to make Wakanda, if you're going to make Black Wall Street, everyone has to be a cog in the machine for it to grow. I think about the casinos, right? So the tribes, they have the casinos. That's their thing. Everyone can't be a pit boss. Someone has to be a dealer. Someone has to be, clean the bathrooms. Someone has to be a wait staff. But the casino generates the money in which they're able to help the entire community off of it. And everyone that's being helped, many of them don't work in the casino. sovereignty doctrine. And even those that don't work in there, but they gamble in there, right? We talk about how, 6 hours before the black dollar leaves our community? So you have a casino, and you have some of your folks that are gambling at the casino, right? So the money that they lose is going back into the system. It's not going out of the community. This isn't rocket science. It really isn't. It's emotional science that we can't seem to get over. Savings and investing instead of spending. We have to save. We have to invest in ourselves. It'd be easy for me to, folks say, well, how come you do things for free in regard to the conduit? And when you do get compensated, you get another camera or you get another piece of equipment because you're trying to grow something, right? And when people help me, I want to be able to have money to compensate them for their time. So you invest back into the thing that you're trying to grow. You don't go out and buy a new car. I've been driving the same car since 2006, 2007. Those things aren't important. Folks say, how come you don't live in a bigger house? You should be living like this and you should be living like that. For what? What do I need it for? It's more for me to clean, right? And ultimately, is that going to help me with the mission? Hey, what's up? Is that going to help with the mission? Remember, that piece of paper is what I'm doing on mission. So yeah, I can go out and rent a 4-bedroom house, but for what? Unless I'm going to have other people stay in there and help build them up, there's no reason for it. It does not serve the mission. But it can take a while to get to that point. Growing instead of DoorDash and Uber Eats. Now, what I mean by growing is growing food. So I don't have a yard. I can't grow. You can grow in your windowsill. You can grow in the little short spaces that you have in your front or in your back on your porch. Grow a vine of tomatoes. Start growing. You got to do something different. And this sounds radical and it's not. How many folks do we know? I'll say this is very stereotypical because it's not, because I know a lot of men. But little old white ladies that grow, right? They're just growing stuff in their garden and it's fun, But they're growing peppers and they're growing this and they're growing that. They understand seasons and how to grow and how to take care and how to produce and how to can, right? Bartering is important. Physical work instead of service sector, right? See, the service sector that we're in doesn't really serve us too much. If you're a carpenter, if you're a plumber, if you're an electrician, you can live anywhere. If you're in the medical field, doesn't matter where you're at. When there's a disaster, when the Katrina happened, yeah, they could go down there and work for FEMA and make a bunch of money. There were folks that were making, I can't remember what they were saying, because I saw one of the job listings. I think it was like $2,000 a day. And they would pay for your room and board. And your job was to come down there and do what FEMA needed with their construction acumen. And you were getting like $2,000 a day. It was crazy. And folks organized teams and they would go down there and go work for a couple months and then, boom. You've got to change how you think. And also, don't feel like you're trapped in a certain space. You know, I hate when people call Kitsap County Kidnap County. And again, it's like, why do you think it's Kidnap County? Because I see the mayor, or I see the commissioner, or I see this executive director, or I see this person pulling their boat. Oh, there's lots of boats in Kitsap County. I don't think they think of it as Kidnap County. So what in your mindset makes you think that this is Kidnap County when these people are thriving? And why the hell aren't you thriving? What in your mindset has gone haywire to where you think that you're a captive in a county that they're pushing their boat to the dock in with their sea-doos in tow? That's what I'm saying. That we're swimming with all these other fish in the ocean at these different classes. And all we see is the level that we're swimming at. And all we got to do is just take a trip up a little bit or take a trip down a little bit. Because there's some folks that's swimming up here that have no idea what the hell is going down, where most of the people are surviving at. And they're like, oh, I work hard and I pulled myself up from my bootstraps and I reinvented myself and yada, 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 yuck, 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 yuck. And it's problematic. So we need to understand how each other lives. But that's what I mean by physical work instead of service sector. Expand existing building capacities. How are you going to build in 2023? How are you going to build your community? How are you going to build your collective? How are you going to build within your immediate family or your immediate circle? Have you thought about that? What are your objectives? What are your short-term goals? What do you want to do the first quarter of 2023? What do you want to have done by June? What do you want to have done by the end of August or September? And what do you want to accomplish this time next year when we're having this conversation? Mr. C, hey, the end of 2022, we had talked about I was going to do this, that, and the other, and this is what we were able to get accomplished. We didn't quite make it here. We changed directions on this. We didn't even know this was an opportunity, and now, but we made this happen. Zulu State of Mind says the mission has been and should always be the foundation that drives individuals to challenge themselves and to excel with a concept greater than themselves. But the first thing they have to do is accept the mission and then understand what the mission is. And they have to value that mission. They have to love the mission. They have to cultivate that mission. They have to understand that the mission is not going to be successful if they don't see themselves as an operator in that mission and the reason why that mission is going to be successful. You need to create a police force instead of being policed. See, our police are supposed to protect and serve. And one of the things that they advocate is the police need to look like you, right? The police need to live in your neighborhoods, right? They need to know you because then it's a lot different. You know, we watch old TV shows and older folks will tell you how it used to be, right? You know, you're at the bar, you're in your 20s or whatever. Maybe you're underage drinking, whatever the case may be. And you say, hey, Billy, go take your ass home. Or the sheriff takes you home, right? You don't get a record. You don't get the shit beat out you. You damn sure don't get shot because he knows you and you know him, right? So we need to create our own police force so that we can protect and serve instead of being policed. We need to create banks and credit unions instead of going and borrowing against other people. I had someone share with me tonight. I want you to tell me if this makes sense. And I don't know if this person was lying. She has no reason to lie. But this person just bought a home for almost $1 million. Okay, understand that. And it doesn't matter how big of a down payment you put down on this home. The mortgage on this home was like $3,600 a month. Right, this is current. This is the 2023. And they get an allotment from the military of $3,000. So what they pay is $600 a month. Now, for whatever you believe on whether or not they deserve that or not, if you're looking at an upper middle class family that is only paying $600 in an almost $1 million home for rent, there's no one in this goddamn county that's paying $600 a month. There are people that are paying for a room that they are sharing for $600 a month. And those folks can't see how people are struggling. And will say, well, if they just made different choices, their life would be different. It's the same reason that people that have money, the people that have good credit, get zero interest or very low interest. And the argument is, well, they're more likely to pay their bills. Well, you know what? I would be more likely to pay my bills too if you weren't charging me 21%. If you weren't requiring such a large down payment. If you were charging me 3% like you're charging them, well, you know what? I actually probably could pay that, right? But that's the game. So the only way that's going to change is if we create our own banks, if we create our own credit unions. And if we're going to dismantle it, once we get in that position, then we cannot operate the way that the status quo is. Because if all we want to do is take the reins of the whip, then nothing is ever going to change. And so I always encourage and challenge people to ask them, what is your purpose? Is your plan to take the reins from the dominant society and you hold on to the reins and you hold on to the whip? Or is what you want to do is say, hey, you know what? There aren't going to be any more reins. There isn't going to be any more whip. We're doing something new. Or is your plan to take control of the reins and the whip just long enough to dismantle it and do something new? Whatever those three things, we need to know what that is. But I guarantee you that if it's the first, where you just want control of the reins, you want to be the person that controls the whip, things aren't going to change. Things aren't going to change. So when we create our banks and our credit unions, we can't do the exact same thing and charge 20%. Because, well, you're a risk, you're a credit risk. So if that's what we're doing, if the military can pay a family a salary, but then also pay them a housing allowance, which sounds like welfare, and then only costs them $600 for a mortgage on an almost $1 million home, then why couldn't someone on Section 8 who's paying $100 a month or $200 a month be paying to own that property? Because if they don't have to worry about their housing, right? Maslow's hierarchy allows them to move up on that hierarchy of need. Their basic needs have been met. Their housing has been met. It's more likely that their food will be met because they're not having to expend all that, right? The clock isn't running on them where it's going to run out. And they're going to go into a world where they don't make a livable wage to be able to afford anything or ever be in a position to purchase anything. We need to create our own schools instead of supporting public schools. The argument has always been all these public schools, they do so horrible to our kids. They don't teach them what they need to. They're indoctrinating our children. Well, if you believe that, then you need to be the teacher. And remember, the mothers in the homes are the first teachers, right? So they're not getting math. They're not getting business planning. They're not getting financial literacy. They're not getting your history, whatever your history is. If they're not getting real estate, if they're not getting investment education, if they're not getting entrepreneurship education, if they're not starting businesses in elementary, in junior high, that's on us. That's on you. Move away from damaging businesses and services such as liquor, and toxic brands that harm our culture. Again, I challenge you. If what you want to do is just take the reins of the whip, then things aren't going to change. If you just want to be the liquor store owner, well, ain't nothing going to change. You're still going to be getting your folks addicted to alcohol. They're going to be using that as a coping mechanism because it's there. You know, you're not going into the high zip codes, and there's not a liquor store on every corner. There's not a weed shop on every corner. Now, if they want to consume those things, they're going to go and they're going to drive and pick it up in your neighborhood and then go back home. So we have got to do the same, but we also can't replace it. You know, I was at a party, at our party that we throw once a month, and someone had said, hey, look at all this liquor out here. Where's the Ciroc and all the other liquors that, you know, black people sell? And I was like, oh, that's actually a pretty interesting observation. I was like, oh, you got me on that one. We should be, you know, supporting black business if that's what we're going to do, right? We're going to consume liquor. I mean, we're adults and all things in moderation. It's all good. Yeah, we should purchase, you know, Ciroc is a good brand. I've had it, you know. But then I got to thinking, I'm like, you know, what does that say? Let's say we did do that. And collectively we were able to shift our purchase behavior from other brands to black-owned brands. Would that decrease the number of alcoholics? Would that decrease the number of DUIs? Would it decrease the amount of drunk drivers hitting people, killing people, destroying property? No, it would not. And so when you become a little bit more nuanced and you really get to thinking about it, yeah, we could buy black-owned liquor. But the thing is it's destructive to our community. We really shouldn't be buying it at all. And it damn sure shouldn't be accessible in our own neighborhoods. Our kids shouldn't be walking past marijuana shops as they're walking to 7-Eleven because it's right next to 7-Eleven to get their candy bar. That's the problem. But we have to control that. M, our guardians must ensure. So whether you're a parent, whether you're a guardian, whether you're a mentor to one of these children, every child should learn a martial art. Every child should learn a martial art. They should be able to protect themselves. They need to understand how to learn something, you know, learning your katas, understanding your breathing. That repetitive motion is critical. Gun usage and safety. I'm a big proponent of protecting you and yours. And so I believe a lot of danger that happens with guns in our community happen because people don't have access to them. They don't understand gun safety. They don't know how to clean their guns. They don't know how to handle a weapon, whether it's loaded or unloaded. We're pointing at each other on an accident and then doing something even more crazy, pulling the trigger, thinking that it's empty and just playing with each other and killing each other on an accident. So gun safety and usage should be there. Math, absolute critical. English, a computer language. Farming, 2 foreign languages. I think if you're going to live here in the United States, not only should you have command of the English language, but you should know how to fluently speak Spanish, because that is the second most spoken language here in the United States. And that is going to continue to grow. My best friend, his wife, was an interpreter. I don't think she's doing it now, but this was like 10 years ago. I think she was getting $90 an hour to be an interpreter, because she's from Barcelona, and so she spoke Spanish. Like, she's getting $90 to speak a language that she just grew up naturally speaking. $90 an hour? I'm like, man. I mean, outside of some speaking engagements, there's very few times I'm making $90 an hour. 2 languages at the minimum. We should be trilingual. English, Spanish, and then one other one. So you think about Japan and Korea and some other places where they are learning how to speak, Japanese, but they're learning how to speak English. Well, I think thanks for the question. So what I suggest in starting your own education and business is really easy. Like, what do you think when you think of public school, just you personally, that is not being taught in the school that you think should be being taught? That's the first thing right there. And the easiest way to do that is I could, with my daughter and a couple other of my close friends, say, hey, we're going to take an hour once or twice a week, and we're going to teach that subject that's missing. Because that's what's happening, right? I mean, if you think about the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts of America, right? They're teaching them and they're getting their badges and all those different things. They're teaching their children. So they learn how to tie knots. They learn how to start a campfire. They learn how to volunteer. They learn how to sell. They're selling cookies, right? They're learning all of these skills because they're part of an organization that was created. Alongside of self-protecting and control of emotions. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And we definitely need to have those conversations. A lot of times in our community, we don't talk about finances with our kids, right? So they don't understand the value of a dollar. They don't know how to, kids and adults are so hyper emotional right now. We're killing each other, or road rage, or whatever. I mean, we see it everywhere. So how do we navigate these emotions? Yeah, absolutely. That's the way that I would do it. I think a lot of times when we see these concepts, we think they're so big, like somehow we got to get a $200 million charter school and create all this curriculum. And it really is, no, we just need to teach the things that we value, that we think are important. I taught my daughter compounding interest when she was 6. And, we just kept coins. We got a big piggy bank, and I put the piggy bank down. And I just kind of taught her by saying, hey, if we put this money away, this penny is going to grow to 2 pennies in this amount of time just by doing this, right? And it was really kind of hard for her to get the full concept of compounding interest. But she understood by saving my money, I was going to grow my money instead of spending my money, right? So at 5, I was able to teach that to her. And then for her birthday, when she turned 10, I bought her first stocks, and I let her decide what she wanted to buy based on what she was already spending money on. So, she likes Disney, she likes McDonald's, she likes Netflix, she likes Roblox. So she has stocks in all of that. And it's like, well, sweetie, you could be a consumer of these things you like, or you can be an owner of what you like. So now she has stocks, and every now and then we look at the stocks and see what it does. And that's money that is just banked. And sometimes you say, well, when do I get to spend the money off the stocks? It's like, well, no, sweetie, it's a thing about saving. And now she learns the principle of saving, and it's, set it and forget it. More like money market. I mean, you want to watch and see what the other stocks are doing. But the principle of saving and not spending is important. We love to play video games at Chuck E. Cheese where they get the tickets. And so she wins all these tickets, and then she wants to spend them immediately. And she was so upset with me in the beginning because I'd say, no, sweetie, we can't spend all of our tickets. We got to save our tickets because there's some big, ticket items that are on that wall that you want that it's going to take a long time for you to save up for. And so just to show you, because I got them here, right? Let me switch my camera here. These are our tickets from the video game place, right? So when we go and we play, right, and we're wasting money just having a good time, right? We save our tickets. What is this one? This one is 935 tickets. This one is 50 tickets. This one is 60 tickets. This one is 180 tickets. And this other blue one, which I dropped on the ground here, is 365 tickets, you know? And so it's like, okay, you can buy one or two things, but you're not going to spend all of your tickets in one place. You're going to learn the art and the principle of saving. And so these tickets are here. And so when she saves up for whatever that big item thing is, and oftentimes what happens is it changes, right? Some of the toys change or whatever. She says, oh, I don't really want that anymore. But you know what you got? You still got these tickets, right? And they're still growing. And so it's little things like that that you can take control of the situation. And that's why I think, again, up here, that gun safety is important. Martial art is important. Right? The principles of martial art isn't, about you just being able to beat folks up. Volunteering. When we are feeding our community, Layla is with us. I was so proud of her on her 8th birthday. There's a picture of Cece tying her apron because it fell on a Sunday, and that's the day we were feeding. And the dishwasher, the sink broke. We couldn't get a plumber out, so we had to wash all the big dishes at my house. And she was like, "It's okay, Daddy," And we spent her birthday evening washing dishes. So I had to take her to Applebee's after, and I just give her dessert. I was just so proud of her because she was so selfless in that time as an 8-year-old, and that was important. We were helping people, but we teach that cross-cultural immersion. Yeah, that's right. Teaching others our values, the ones that punches our people forward, self-worth. Absolutely. Cross-cultural immersion. We need to understand and learn other people's cultures. It's a lot of good things. If you've ever traveled abroad, it's such an experience. But we have a melting pot here, right? We've got Ethiopian communities, we've got Ukrainian communities, we've got all kinds of different folks. And they do things that are things that we may want to adopt. But if nothing else, at least appreciate and understand. And if we're talking about creating the sovereignty doctrine, we don't have to recreate the wheel. You look and you see what other people are doing well and start doing some of those things. Understanding foreign affairs. We are in a globalization has become so small. We started selling our bento boxes. Those bento boxes were sourced out of China. They have Cameron Management Services on them. Those products were designed by us, and we shipped, 20,000 of them here. I have pictures and videos when we first started G2. 18-wheeler pulls up, and there's just crates and crates and crates of them. We've sold almost most of them now. We probably have 2,000 left. But understanding how to source products from other countries and other resources. Do you have connections in other countries? We think about Asian hair shops, right? And how they do business with back home, because that's where a lot of their products are coming from, right? So they're getting them steeply discounted. What kind of relationships can we forge by doing that? Nutrition. We really need to get a handle on this. Again, that trifecta, the Trinity, mind, body, and soul. What do we eat? What do we put in our body? How does that propel us? How does that nurture us? How does that feed our brain? How does that feed our mind? Exercising, that physical piece is so important to stave off infection and sickness, to prolong our life, to live it more abundantly, not as sore. Tell a lot of young folks in their 20s, like, man, take care of your feet, take care of your back, because you don't want the back problems I got. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even 50. I got a cane, That sucks. That's reality. Tutoring. Tutoring can be all types of things. Again, you have these knowledge, skills, and abilities. Maybe you're tutoring martial arts. Maybe you're tutoring gun safety. Maybe you're tutoring entrepreneurship. Maybe you're tutoring math. Maybe you're tutoring managing emotions, emotional intelligence, problem solving, critical thinking skills, creating exercises for folks, for kids to navigate through challenges. And they love that stuff. When you engage with them, I have kids in here making candles, right? Giving them a skill, following directions, following a process, being patient as we go through the steps, understanding what's happening when you're making a candle, whatever that is, seeing something through from the beginning to the end. We all have something to give here. Helping with elder care. It is an absolute crime to see our elderly out on the street. I can't tell you how many times I'm in a grocery store and I'm helping someone in a wheelchair, an older person, grab something off the top shelf because I'm taller. Sometimes it's even too tall for me, and it's like teetering up there. It's like, oh, no, it's okay. Never mind. I was like, no, I got it, and I get it for them. They're just really appreciative of that, and we laugh. It's just these acts of kindness. We don't even respect our elders anymore. It's such a different time. But helping with that care. If they're in a home, visit them. Have a conversation with them. We're going to be, the conduit is going to be talking to elders in 2023 and capturing their stories and create a living journal. Some folks were running with Quincy Jones that are still alive. We want to get those stories. How did Loxie Egan's get the name? How did Kitsap County name a street, an exit, Loxie Egan's? What's behind that? Do you even know who Loxie Egan's is? You get up on the exit all the time. That's the history. Those are the stories. And once those people pass away, those stories are gone. They're gone. It's unfortunate. Farming. Again, we need to teach how to grow, how to become sustainable in our own food. Driving is a really big one. So many of our folks do not have a license. And we're riding around here dirty. When we do get pulled over, we're getting hit with no insurance, whatever we got pulled over for. Those things can escalate into something else, unfortunately. And so we're driving on back roads. We're driving at night. We're doing all these things to avoid. But there's ways to get your license back or to get your license in the first place. And that may come with some of that long-term planning I was talking about. You living by yourself, $2,000 a month and $1,000 of your rent, or you living with 5 other people and only $2,000 a month is going to the space, and now collectively you have $8,000. And you're able to pay this debt off so that you can drive. Because you can make a lot of money with the license. A lot of side hustling you can do. A lot of places you can get to in this spread out county. And I got an opportunity in Seabeck. Oh, I got an opportunity in Bainbridge Island. Oh, I got an opportunity in Paulsbo. Oh, I got a weekend opportunity. Oh, I got an opportunity on Sunday. There's no bus. Cooking. So many folks, man. I'm watching them order Uber Eats or whatever the other app is. And they're just spending hundreds of dollars, sometimes thousands of dollars, especially the families. Yeah, family tell me, oh yeah, we just spent $90 on KFC. What? And it was just Wednesday dinner. You spent $90 at KFC? Why would you not at least go to SARS and just get, like, oh my God. I don't see anything wrong with it. But that's the value piece, right? Basic vehicle repair and maintenance. Someone asked me the other day about my car. They said, acts of kindness changes everything. What did they say to me about my car? They said something about my car. They always ask me when I'm going to get a new car. Or they also remark, man, your car really looks good. It's like, for how old it is. Like, yeah, it's an 06. The car is almost 20 years old. It's got 120,000 miles on it, something like that. Because, I didn't drive a lot for a while. But I take care of it. And I get the maintenance done on it. I get the oil changes on it. So it's going to last as long as possible. I haven't had a car payment since I was 17 years old. It's just like paying cars off. So I'll buy them used. But it's a depreciating asset once you drive it off the lot. And if you don't take care of it, then you're going to have all this sunk cost where you're just constantly pouring money into it. So keep up on the maintenance and the upkeep on it. Don't fall in love with the physicalness of it. We've lost our ability to support our elders. We have, but we can get that back. And that comes from modeling the behavior. This is what we're going to do. The 5 of us here are going to start supporting our elders. And we're going to show everyone else by a physical example on how we do that, how we speak about them, how we spend time with them, how we share with them, how we do things for them. And we don't have to go crazy. It's just a little bit of change. You just turn the dial a little bit. Just turn the dial a little bit. And with everyone turning the dial, all of a sudden the dial has turned 180 degrees. See, when they say that it starts with one step, it sounds like cap. It sounds like hyperbole. Sometimes it is. But it really does start with one step. Basic house repairs and maintenance. I already talked about that. That's big, right? And a basic tool proficiency test. Everyone should be able to use a screwdriver. I was working on the washing machine yesterday. I said, Layla, I need you to bring me a screwdriver. She was like, which one did you need, Dad? Exactly. She should know the difference between a screwdriver. You know what I'm saying? Bring me the flathead, sweetie. Or I'll say, bring me the one with the cross. Phillips. I don't even know why the Phillips screwdriver is called Phillips screwdriver. Like, bring me the one with the cross. That makes more sense to her mind, then that's fine. Slotted, cross. So I can be under the washing machine and she can just bring me the screwdriver that I need instead of bringing me the whole bag and I'm trying to dig through the bag by myself. But that's our job to teach that. Everyone should be able to swing a hammer. Read a measuring tape. These are basic skills. And that's the basic tool proficiency test. And I think learning a sport or an instrument is important. The sport is important for several reasons. One, if it's a team sport, they get an opportunity to learn how to work together at a young age, right? And that may even be good for adults. If you never played on team sports or you haven't played on team sports since you were a kid, get on a team sport. One, you're going to get some physical exercise. 2, you're going to meet some other people. 3, you're going to learn how to work as a team with people that you don't know very well, that you're getting to know. And then 4, you're going to learn how to learn a new skill, practice that skill, and become more proficient. And 5, now people are reliant upon you, again, to play your position. You're a forward, so they expect you to play as a forward. You're a center. You're supposed to guard the hoop. Don't let anyone drive the lane. You're the point guard. You're supposed to handle the ball. Pass. Forwards are supposed to rebound. Set screens. Right? Working as a team. These are all transferable skills. in individual sports or team sports, one is that stick-to-itiveness or that martial art, right? Doing those katas over and over again, getting that proficiency, getting the movements just perfect, where it is now second nature for you to do those movements, right? You have your breathing down. When you're in an intense situation, you can get your breathing down. You automatically go into it. You talked about IOU, about the emotion piece, right? If I get my breathing down first, when I'm in a heightened state of emotional reaction, more oxygen is going to my brain. I'm actively thinking about my breathing. It gives me time, hopefully, to learn some of my other lessons and say, hey, I need to diffuse this situation and not take it the other way. Not let my animalistic side of me take over. Oh, this was my Christmas present because I'm so cold. So Rob and Stephanie got this for me. It's not a jacket. It's like an indoor blanket with sleeves and a hood, so I stay warm. So they know, like when I'm cold, my back shakes, and with my back issues, that it's really painful. So now I can wear this and stay warm, but I could still move and do things because I can't sit up and just be wrapped up in a blanket and can't do anything, right? Again, that's problem solving. So if I know if I wrap up in a blanket with no sleeves, I'm more likely maybe just to lay on the TV and just hit the remote through the blanket. But if I've got on this jacket with tapered sleeves on it, right? Now I can even wash dishes with this thing. I can fold laundry, I can move around, I could do everything I got to do, and I can stay productive. Productive. Are you productive right now? Are you doing something right now? And it doesn't necessarily mean physically doing something. Are you exercising your mind? Are you hearing or are you listening? Are you digesting? Are you comprehending? Are you analyzing? Are you critically thinking? Are you adding pieces to your tool belt? Are you saying, hey, man, I didn't think about that like that? Or you know what? I think the same thing on that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to try that. I'm going to tell someone this. I'm going to stop doing that. That's production. And if we want to be the most efficient producers, we have to work on ourselves. And we're in a time right now where we don't have the luxury to just work on ourselves and then work on the mission. We got to work on ourselves and then the mission at the same time. No wasted movement. Part of martial arts. Always learning. Lifelong learner. That's why I tell stories about myself in the hopes that people can look at it as either a cautionary tale or in a way to do something that could be successful. You should be able to learn from my mistakes and from my successes. That'll help you to understand why I say I don't lose, that I either win or I learn. I can't lose if I'm learning. Things may not turn out the way that I want. My business could fail next year. Did I lose? Only if that's my mindset. How many times did Donald Trump claim bankruptcy? And he ascended to the presidency. Regardless if you think that's the Matrix or not, those things still had to transpire. Have the audacity, have the unmitigated gall to do something different, to go against the grain of whatever your community is. They tell you you're supposed to be a go along to get along. They tell you you're supposed to be a ride or die. They tell you you're supposed to be hard. They tell you you're supposed to be this. No, do you. I was that in my 20s. But I'm unrecognizable now. thank your Father for teaching me the values of knowing how to use tools and using them properly. Absolutely. And that's why it needs to be part of the sovereignty doctrine. See, we're so dependent on everyone else in a bad way. We're supposed to be codependent. I mean, not codependent, interdependent, not codependent. I need you to do this for me. I need this one to do that for me. I need this one to do that for me. And if I can't, I just can't. And then we get that mindset, right? It's like, well, I hear people, well, damn, that's too hard. That's going to take too long. So then they don't go for what they want. It's like, wow. So because it's difficult or it's going to take some time, you don't want to, or you got to save up for it, you don't want it no more? Yeah, no. Like, that's crazy. But if I don't teach my daughter, hey, you're not going to spend all those tickets, then it would be my fault if she doesn't know how to save when she becomes an adult. And no, it's not a guarantee that she doesn't go off the rails when she's, on her own and she can make her own decisions. She still may. But my job as a parent is to try to give her the tools so we'll minimize the chance that she does do that. And if she does do it, it's for a short amount of time before she catches herself. But I'd so much rather have the tools and not use them than never have the tools at all. And then let someone who would hurt her, either mentally or physically, teach her. She's got to use tools, right? That's why there's the joke, right? The woman takes the car to the mechanic and he overcharges her because she doesn't know anything about the cars, right? And it's like, well, that's the failure of the father and the mother. It didn't have to be that way. All right. And then last, donate to businesses. When you see Facebook birthdays or the Great Giveaway or Give 10, the Give 10, this is a campaign that a lot of you guys probably don't know about. So there's a campaign that's going on in this county. And what they have set up is for, and it technically it's for everyone, but I want you to think of more of wealthy folks, right? So what Give 10 is when wealthy people die, they're asking these wealthy folks to give 10% of their estate or whatever over to this, I think it's Kitsap Foundation, so that they can, put that money into the community in a nonprofit way, right? In a philanthropic way, right? Give 10. So they're actively doing that. And so that is something else that we could do also. All the tools of the dominant society, all the tools of the matrix aren't bad. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And there are some tools that you can use in a different way. So, there's a big December giving. There's Amazon Smile. If you shop on Amazon, like G2 is part of Amazon Smile. That's a nonprofit thing. Now, for every dollar you spend, it doesn't cost you anything. I think they give 0.005 cents toward every dollar purchased, right? I mean, it's a minuscule amount. But if you think, I probably spent 10 grand at least, well, probably 20 grand at Amazon this year. At least it's something coming back, even if it's a fraction of a percent. You just do all the things. You do it once, you set it, and you forget it. All right, let's get into the children now, since we talked on that. This is Roman numeral 19. Got to look at my Roman numerals here. I know I'm going long, but I really wanted to get through this by the new year, and I still probably have another 3 shows. But your children. Listen to your children, but your children do not lead. Now, this is really important to me because some people, I respect quite a few people that I respect, I have a different way of looking at things right now. And I believe they are allowing children to make decisions and lead things, and they're not ready to do so. And we still need to be the leaders. And if you are turning over that leadership to the children, and they're like, well, we were waiting for you to lead, but now you want us to make the decisions, but they don't have the capacity to make those decisions or think it all the way through. And there could be some smart kids out there, no doubt. We should still be guiding our children. We are still teaching them. So I vehemently disagree with that. I think that is a huge issue. And number 19, learn to try new things like food and experiences. And again, my my frame of mind on this is I work with a lot of parents, and I mean a lot, scores of parents. And so I know what parents tell me, and I think that many of the things that they are teaching their children or not requiring their children to do, I think are hurtful and detrimental to them. And one of those things is, nope, they don't have to try this. It looks nasty. They don't even know what it is. My father had a rule. You had to at least try it. Now, if you didn't like it, he wasn't going to make you eat it if you didn't like it. But you were going to at least try it. Because you don't know if you don't like it if you don't try it. He made me get on a roller coaster. I hate roller coasters. They're not so bad now, but in my 20s, you can pay me to get on a roller coaster. I was traumatized. I hated roller coasters. But he made me try it. I was like, no. Everyone else is having fun. I might have had fun. Now, what's crazy is I like things that were kind of roller coasters, adjacent roller coasters. Like the log roll, the big log would go up and then go down and all the water would splash everywhere. Oh, that was fun. I was like, well, that's kind of like a roller coaster. You like that, but you don't like that. And so what typically happens is your kids don't like a bunch of fruits and vegetables, right? And so they don't have these experiences. And then if you just allow them to eat French fries and burgers and all that, then their palate is going to learn to like that. I was talking with Layla yesterday, and she was telling me about, because now it's her first year in junior high. So if she wants, she can have pizza every day, or she can have a chicken burger or whatever. And she's like, well, the pizza there isn't really good, Dad. And, I take my lunch, a couple times a week probably. And one of her favorite things in her lunch are tomatoes. Grape tomatoes, sliced tomatoes, it don't matter. She likes tomatoes. Dad likes tomatoes, right? And that's one of the things is we definitely made sure that we introduced fruits and vegetables to her young. So she has a taste for vegetables. She's so funny. It's like, oh, sweetie, where do you want to go to lunch today? We haven't done this in a while. She was like, I want to go to Panera Bread and get some kind of crazy sandwich. I'm like, what? Like, girl, 9 years old, what you mean you want to go to Panera Bread? Like, okay. With your old soul self. She's so funny. But she's like that because those experiences were given to her. She'll go to the IHOP and with grandma and get the tri-tip steak breakfast. I'm like, what you know about tri-tip steak? But those experiences are important. Give enough time to figure out if they want to do something and not quit because it starts getting difficult or something else more fun comes along. I wish that my dad had did that more with me. I wanted to play the drums, but I didn't stick with it. And, I paid for it because I can't play the drums now. I quit and it was gone. I wish I did. But with Layla, she can read sheet music. She's playing the piano now. You saw a Facebook video of her playing. And, she's running track, she's doing gymnastics, and there's things that she doesn't do anymore, but she's got to try those things and try for a little while to really see, is this something that you really don't like, you really don't want to do? And understanding, hey, these things are optional and they're expensive. So if you do like it, you got to take it seriously, right? That means you're going to have to go. Oh, I don't feel like going today. No, this costs money. Those things are important. You're teaching those traits now, because in adulthood, you need to have that stick-to-itiveness to start that business, to run that business, and not give up the first time things don't go right, whether it was something internal or external. We couldn't avoid COVID. We had to make masks and hand sanitizer to stay open. I had to go work at the Navy, right? But are you going to give up, or are you going to find a way through? They must be able to read aloud just as well as they recite rap and hip-hop lyrics. Now, this is one that this fries my ass up. I go to a church, pick any church, and in the parking lot, you'll hear the kids, they're rapping, whoever the latest rapper is. They reciting the lyrics like they wrote the song, right? They were a ghostwriter, and then no one knew. Then you go in, and they got to read the announcement, and they can barely read the announcement, or they can barely read the Bible verse. And it wasn't like they weren't pre-assigned that verse. And again, this isn't a one-off, right? I grew up in the church, so I've been to church probably thousands of times. And so to watch a child be able to recite these rap lyrics or these song lyrics like they wrote them, and then have a piece of paper and just reading basic announcements, and they can't project their voice, they can't read with any confidence, that's a problem. Especially when IOU was talking about, kids being emotional. And when they get upset, now you see them. They're going off on adults. They don't give a damn who they're talking to. They're talking crazy, for sure. But put a piece of paper in their hand and they can't read. It's a huge problem, and that's our fault. One of those racist jokes is, if you want to hide something from a black person, put it in a book, because they don't read. Hit dogs holler. If you holler, then you ain't reading. When's the last time you picked up a damn book and read it? Even an audiobook. When's the last time you picked up a book and read it? I could tell you how to get rich. I could tell you how to stay in your relationship. I could tell you how to start a business. I could tell you how to stay healthy. I could tell you how to do all these things. And you know where they're at? They're in books. And you know what you won't do? Read a book. You'll do everything but that. The Bible. For those of you that don't know, I am a board member for the Kitsap Regional Library. I took that assignment toward the end of the year this year. It's a 5-year assignment. But previous to that, the library comes onto my podcast every first Tuesday of the month, because the library is so awesome. See, I believe in the library to that extent. You want to start a business? Oh, they have opportunities for you there to start a business at the library. I don't know if we're going to do it this January because it's too cold, but January's episode, I just ordered the struts for my trunk. So on my trunk, the struts went out. So when you open up the hood, it just falls down and it's super heavy. It's actually quite dangerous. But they have children books that are there. So me and the adult librarian, we're going to go and read the children book that's at the library and change the struts out ourselves on the live podcast. Because the resources are there. I can't. This is so important that you understand that. D, must be able to decipher a need versus a want. This is a hard one for adults. Do you want it or do you actually need it? And can you tell the difference? And then can you control your emotions to resist the things that you want for the things that you need? Because you might look around and say, oh, there's a bottle of alcohol, there's some chips. Oh man, there's some new shoes over there. There's this. It's like, oh, look at all these. If you were to categorize it, want. Well, where are your needs? Well, I didn't pay the electric bill. I didn't pay my phone bill. My Netflix is paid up. Want. So we have these things that we need to fix in our lives. And we have these things that we need to teach our children. So as they go into adulthood, they have an understanding of the difference between a need and a want. They have an understanding where they're saying, Mama, I need, Daddy, I need. They understand, hey, yeah, we also need toilet paper, toothpaste, deodorant, cleaning supplies, right? Oh, how much does that cost? How much do you make? How much of your income goes to that? And I want $100 game and I want this. I just got the game yesterday and now today I want a pair of shoes and tomorrow I want that. I just ate a $12 bag of chicken nuggets in one setting because no one was there to stop me from doing it. And I don't understand that was supposed to last for 4 or 5 meals for me and my siblings. And I was supposed to put some other food with it because that was the meat, the protein portion of that meal. And then when your kids struggle, what happens is we say, well, I told them not to do that. I was like, no, you didn't teach them. Yeah, you just told them. You didn't teach them. And so now they're exercising these behaviors and actions that are not healthy for them. They don't know any better. And you're just chastising them for making a bad choice when they don't know any better. And they're just supposed to know because you told them, because you said so. Sovereign doctrine. That's why they must understand the family finances. Hey, baby, this is how much we pay in rent. Hey, baby, this is the mortgage. Hey, baby, this is what we pay in rent. And then we're putting $200 a month aside so that we can have 20% down for the house that we want to buy. The house is going to be $300,000. 20% of $300,000 is $60,000. We're saving $200 a month, so we're saving $2,400 a year. At that rate, it's going to take us 10 years to save $24,000. It would take us 20 years to save up almost enough to buy the house, which at that time, that 20% is going to be more. So we're going to have to increase our savings or pull some money from somewhere else. But you need to understand that this is what we're doing and why we're doing it. What do you think about that? Let's discuss. What would you do? And we see in some other cultures and even in our own culture, you'll see kids that are working in the family restaurant, in the family business, and they're actually happy doing it. They're not stomping around and pouting. You go in and you sit in the restaurant and some teenager walks up to take your order and they're just as friendly. And their parents own the store. That's their company. So how come, even though, hey, they're a kid, yeah, they could go play with their friends. They would probably rather do that. But how can they be there and actually provide the customer service better than many adults, work the shift better than many adults, and still go to school and do what they got to do? And how do they do that? Sovereignty doctrine. These things aren't novel. These things aren't new. That's why they must understand the family's finances. F, they must contribute to the family's passive or direct income. Remember, my dad says charity starts at home. So if you do have your own business, your child should be a part of it in some way, somehow, or some fashion. If you're creating some kind of a passive income, even if you put that money in savings for them. When we got a job when we were kids, my dad used to make us give him the money. And if one of my brothers or sisters were listening, they can confirm how much they had to save. But he would let you, basically you had to save 80%, you could keep 20, right? But you were going to save your money. You weren't just going to spend it. It was like, well, you don't need all this stuff you think you want to buy. All these wants you have. You're going to save your money. So I'm going to give you 20% and you can go and spend that. And you can save that 20% up if you want something larger, or we can have a discussion if you want something that's, really significant. But you're going to learn the art of saving and delayed gratification. But it's up to us to teach that. Must volunteer at least 5 to 10 hours outside the home and not with friends, family, or other family members. So, many of us got these fake aunties and aunties and, that's my uncle, that's my cousin, this and that. These are people that are close to you. If we are going to change the culture of supporting and taking care of strangers, then that's going to have to start with our youth also, right? We're going to have to prioritize that with our young also, which means that we're going to have to model that behavior where we're providing service and love to people that we don't know or don't know well. So if the only people that you can help in life are the people that you're close to, how are you going to have any kind of empathy and sympathy to help change the community and society at large? And so that's another lesson that our children must be taught. We must demonstrate an understanding of privilege and a right. What is the difference between what is a privilege and what is a right? Our children are very entitled today, and that's hugely problematic. There's a study that shows that so many million millennials have moved back home, and they've had this failure to launch. And you've got lying flat and all these other concepts, right? Many of them aren't going to be able to buy a home like their parents did and their grandparents did, right? The American dream is an American nightmare for them. But there's also this entitlement. We're watching kids that are throwing tantrums because they don't get the present they want, or they get their phone taken. Then there was a kid that killed their parent because they took their cell phone. Murdered their parent because they took the cell phone. We're off the rails right now. So we have to demonstrate understanding the difference between a privilege and a right, and understanding what entitlement is. I must be able to connect how the effort and result they achieve impacts their privileges. Again, how does your effort and your result that you achieve impact the things that you get to do? Because it's a privilege. Because you saved your money, you have the privilege to make a purchase or not, or save for more. Because you went to school and you did your work and you behaved, you have the privilege maybe to go to driving school. From an adult standpoint, what are you putting effort into? What are you achieving? And what privilege does that afford you? And can you articulate that not only to children, but to other people that are just coming into the fold that need to understand these concepts? And J, must be able to connect the importance of the work they do and the well-being to the well-being of the community. This one I talked about in the sovereignty above, right? That's important for our children also. They need to know why we make the sacrifices that we do. Hey, baby, I can't, we can't hang out today. Hey, baby, no, we can't go and get ice cream today. We got ice cream yesterday. I got to go to work. I'm volunteering over here. I'm helping these kids out. I'm helping these elders. I'm building the community by doing this. We have to connect the importance to the work that we do to the well-being of the community. This is the community that your child is going to live in. This is the community that your niece and nephew is going to live in. This is the community that as you age, you're going to live in. So while you're in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s, however old you are right now, and you don't give a damn about the unhoused, okay. But when you're 60 and 70 and 80, if you live that long, and somehow the supports fall away because you don't know what happens tomorrow, and you didn't help solve the homeless issue, now you're one that's down there. And when you had the power and the voice to advocate for the unhoused, you could have when it wasn't an issue for you. And you could have helped create the solution. See how these things happen? Then all of a sudden, oh, well, I don't want the unhoused here. It's affecting my property values. You're hearing that in Port Orchard with the emergency shelter over there, right? And I would submit to you that there were probably a good number of those folks that did not support the unhoused before. And so because that wasn't something that was on their radar or something that wasn't important to them, maybe dogs were, the Humane Society or something else, all admirable, that all of a sudden when the unhoused gets so out of control that all of a sudden now in this city they need to set up an emergency shelter in your neighborhood, you're like, oh, not in my backyard. NIMBYs, right? This is going to affect my property value. I got kids. There's drug use. There's gang violence. There's that, Now all of a sudden it's a huge issue. But you know what you could have done? You could have supported when it didn't affect you. Because now it does. And now you just don't want it there. But see, it's out of control now, so you don't have a choice in it. See how that works? So even if you're looking at it from a selfish standpoint, the things that you do today will impact your tomorrow. The last one I'm going to just go through it quick, is consequences. And I'll end tonight. Consequences. And this is number 23, Roman numeral 23. Let me pop that up. You cannot have an organization or a community. You can't establish sovereignty unless there are consequences. You have to have a way to hold the collective accountable. If you can't do it, it's going to fall apart, right? Because ultimately, as soon as I want to, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. The hell with what you're saying. There have to be consequences, and they have to be meaningful consequences. Okay? Now, crimes against each other are a capital offense. You do not commit crimes against each other. Period. There can be no quarter for this. There must be swift and severe consequences. You do not destroy your own home. You do not destroy your own brothers and sisters. Crimes against each other are a capital offense. B, those protecting perpetrators will receive the same consequences. We're not going to change. The South Side of Chicago continues to be the same way because there are people that protect those that are terrorizing their own families and their own communities. So if you're going to protect the perpetrator who has committed a crime against one of our own, you receive the same consequence. You got to be held accountable. C, and this one's going to be a hard one for street people. Snitching is considered virtuous. You will tell. And what I'm talking about here is crimes only against each other. I don't care about stuff other than that. I mean, I'd like you not to commit any crimes. But this is the social contract with each other. It's me, it's Raymond. Who else is on here? And I owe you. We're all working together. And Raymond does something to me. And IOU knows about it. IOU must tell me what Raymond did. Because we're all part of the collective. Otherwise, you're dismantling what we're trying to build. And we can't build that way. And we're going to fraction off. We're going to become siloed off. This one is going to start operating against that one. These folks are going to start conspiring against the group at large. And it's not going to work. You protect the house at all costs. So what I was saying earlier, how is it that the most dangerous, badass person in the group knows better than to go over to the high income zip codes or mess with the popo? All of a sudden, they're scared. All of a sudden, let me go ahead and call it, they're little bitches. But if they look like you, oh, they'll slit your throat without a moment's notice. They might even kill your kids. Where does that mindset come from? And to be clear, I'm not advocating for someone to go over to the police or to some rich zip codes and commit crimes. That's not what I'm saying. We're intellectually honest over here. But you got to operate a different way. You've got to operate a different way, or you're not going to make it. And if it's not for you, then bow out now. Because what you're telling me is, you know what, man? I can't tell you that I'm not going to turn into a snake and bite you at some point in time. I need to be able to say to myself and say to you, hey, man, I might want to commit a crime against you in the future. I might want to know that one of the brothers or sisters committed a crime against you, and I'm going to hold it in. I'm not going to tell. I'm not going to say nothing. I'm going to just let it ride. You need to go now. There's no place for you. Not in the community. And I can give you two examples. Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. They were infiltrated by people that look like them. COINTELPRO. And they were destroyed from within. The Panther Party, same thing. We have example. That's why you have to understand your history. The most powerful men in our history, Malcolm, King, Panthers, destroyed within. And you can have the hubris if you want. I ain't like that. I'm down like 4 flat tires. Man, I'm loyal to the soil. Yeah, that's what your mouth says. But history shows us something different. These were powerful men that were changing the world. These are the only 3 that I have for consequences. I'll probably add to them because I had a conversation again, shout out to Akuye, about consequences and the fact that if we don't have a way to hold the collective accountable, we're not going to be successful. But if someone goes against the collective, they have to be cut off. And when you're thinking about the street, you're no longer welcome on the block. Right? We cut off your ability to make money, your ability to get support from allies outside of the community. You're cut off. And the only way that you get to come back is if you come back humble and you take responsibility and accountability and you deal with the consequences. Then you come back in. See, there has to be a way to come home. There always has to be, the door always has to be open. If they are willing to be accountable and deal with the consequences. But the consequences must stand and they must be for everyone. No exceptions. Doesn't matter what your contribution is in the community, what you've done, how long you've done it, how much money you've put in, how much time you put in. If you break the contract, consequences. And if you're not willing to adhere to the consequences, you are ostracized. You are 86th. You are excommunicated. And that doesn't mean that you just get to run around the town and just do what you were doing anyway. And it's like, nah, I ain't got time. Because you know what we say? We say, you know what? I don't have time for F stuff. I ain't got time for drama. I ain't got time. All of a sudden, we appear to be above, right? And we ain't got time for that, man. If we're going to just sit here and argue and this and that, or you just going to say this and that, I ain't got time for that, man. I'm just going to go and do what I'm going to do. No, you think you are. No, you're not. You no longer have the support of the community. And this isn't just to black people, right? This is whatever that community is. XYZ. Not only is the community not going to support you, but we are going to hold our allies that are outside the community against you also. So y'all better not do business with him. Y'all better not do business with her. Or we're going to have a problem with you. So the best thing you can do is sell your house and move. Or come back, accept responsibility, be accountable, and accept the consequences, and come back into the fold. It's the only way that it's going to work. But you must be cut off, and you must be cut off thoroughly. Otherwise, it's anarchy. Anarchy is not going to facilitate change. It'll be the facade of change. And what will end up happening is you'll look up in 5 or 10 years, and some people will have made it. Your Jay-Z's, your LeBrons, and everyone else will still be in the same position. And when the music stops, many of those folks won't have gained any knowledge, skills, and abilities because those people never put them in position to be board members, to understand how your business acumen is, your logic, how you process things, giving you experience on being a bookkeeper, giving you experience on computer skills, giving you experience of managing people or managing services or products, giving you experiences of working in high-paced environments, giving you experience of multitasking, giving you experience of conflict resolution. The fruit of your tree should be sweet, bountiful. The branches from your tree should also produce its own fruit. That's how you know the quality of the tree. So remember, in life, you may be a tree, but you will always be a branch on someone else's. I am a tree to many people, but I'm a branch on many people too. And I am fruit from many people, my father, instructors, mentors. But the seeds from my fruit grew my own tree. And from that, I had to grow my own fruit. And from that, some of my fruit became branches. And some of those branches became trees. So I guess for tonight, we're a forest. All right, Joe. I have just gone over part 4 of the Manifesto, the living document for change. First hour was another conversation that tied into this. But again, in the description, you can go and catch part 1. The link is there for mentorship, volunteering, large events, respecting elders, and resolving issues. Part 2, which was all of resolving issues, which is a big one, and programs. Part 3, doing business with, supporting business, employees, hiring, and employers. And then step 4 tonight was creating sovereignty doctrine, children, and consequences. Again, if you want this manifesto, just email me. I put that in the description also. You can reach out. It's time for me to take some medicine and probably use the bathroom, as I've been sitting here for 3 hours. And how long has this thing been going? Where's my timer at? 3 hours and 46 minutes. Understand, right now I believe that I am on mission and I am doing my purpose. And there's so many other things that I could be doing right now. Look, I got a PlayStation right here. I got my Netflix. I definitely have other work to do. Got TV. There was some company that wanted to come visit me, which I declined. She'd be all right. On mission, priorities, and understand everyone's not going to be able to do it at the level or intensity that you can do it in. And that's okay. You know how they say you can't coach effort? That's true. Give me your effort and I can teach you. And that really should be the thought for anyone who is in a teaching position. You can teach effort. You can teach desire. But it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. But you do need to operate with urgency. So we're not just taking a after lunch stroll. Even in our marathon, we have to walk with purpose. We walk with our head up. What we did in our past is what we did. It's not who we are. And we're going to go forward. The Bible says, I will take the least among you. The first shall be last, and the last shall be first. So if you're feeling last right now, you can be first. Be first. Dare to be first. I believe in you. And I have yet to meet you. And I look forward to meeting you for those that I have not met. It is now officially New Year's Eve. Please take care. You know, they say no good things happen after midnight. I know folks are going to enjoy themselves and do their things. You know, you got folks that might want to shoot off some guns. If you ain't supposed to be around guns, consider that. How important is it? You know, it's one thing to be around a gun because of protection. Because Ice Cube saying better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6 is facts. But at the same time, for stupid stuff, as folks were popping off for New Year's or the 4th of July, really? See, we need you. The children need you. The community needs you. You need you. We need you. All right. I'm R1 Cameron. This is the conduit. Govern yourselves accordingly.